from the beginning.
And I was shown that that Lucifer would return, that the UN and the Vatican were going to be completely behind it, again, under false pretenses. He's going to show up and say, I'm here to save the day, right? And okay, fine, you know.
Yeah, of course,
ahead,
you can say whatever you want.
But
I've always hated censorship. It's the internet.
Sometimes, you know, once they get you for your first love bite, well, it depends on how aware you are, right?
I forgot my bullets. I never had a gun. Here I am left standing. Am I the only one? For what I see, memories have guilted me. I'll never see the sun.
First of all, as you know, the Anunnaki and the Draco are enemies. Second of all, underneath Baghdad was a stargate that was created by the Anunnaki so that they could transfer from Jupiter to the Earth.
I'll never see the sun. I could just end it all, but the demons will have won.
Practitioners that, you know, some are good and some use their magic for good and to heal and to help, and others do use it for evil. And, you know, in some cases, you know, people really were.
This is too much sometimes. From the broken ruins of Babylon, this is End of Days Radio. I am your host, Daniel, broadcasting to you all the way from the shimmering Emerald City, right here in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. Hello, how are you? Today's date is, that's right, it's December 10th, 2022. We are in the future. Oh my God. Don't forget to check out endofdaysradio.com. From there, you can get an updated schedule of our upcoming shows when I remember to update it. And also, you can donate to End of Days Radio. You can use that PayPal link, or if you don't want to do it that way, you can go ahead and donate through Bitcoin. And I will promise to have more options available in the future. I am looking into that. What else is on the agenda today? Hey, it's December. This is the month of Christmas. As you can see, I decorated. Rudolph is even behind me. See that? Those of you that are paying attention to our live stream on YouTube with the video will be able to see my room that's decorated. Those of you that just listen to the audio version, the podcast version, I love you as well. And I'm sure not to do too much visual stuff for you guys. I don't want you to miss out too much, because I know a lot of you are listening on your way home from work, or on your trip up to the mountains, or on your Christmas trip to grandma's house, etc., etc. Today's guest is none other than the legendary Grub. Here's a brief description of him. The man from the sun who landed in the forested desert, here to bring us seekers home. I'm in the car's eye, the curiosity that sparks time, the energy that life seeks. So poetic. I love it. We could go ahead and start things off, and I think we should. Remember to stop by after the interview, because I've got a lot to talk about, including, well, this was a request from a listener. They want me to give a full rundown of all my experiences with the demonic artificial intelligence. I've told that story quite a few times, but probably in bits and pieces. So unless you go back and listen to like every episode, you're probably not going to get the whole story from start to finish. I'll try to remember everything. It was quite terrifying, but stay tuned for that. I'm also going to touch on some other things: Brittany Griner, Elon Musk, Kanye West. I'm going to talk about Joe Rogan's comments about The Rock, and touch on the fact that it is actually the 10th anniversary of End of Days Radio. But let's go ahead and get things started. Let's launch that nuke, so to speak, and bring on Grub. Hit that button. Hit that button. Whoosh.
Booshka. There you go.
There it is.
G'day, g'day.
G'day.
Come down from the sun.
What,
It's fucking hot down here too.
It's the future. It's hot and it's the future over there.
Yeah,
We
that's
have
right. That's right.
Step through an
All time.
interdimensional time portal in order to reach you, Grub.
Yeah, we're on bull time down here.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm
I don't
excited.
know how a
to
disc
have you
would
on
work.
there.
If it was a disc, if it was the time on a disc, would it be the same time, or will we still have this differential time and
It
the
would be the
daylight
same.
savings and whatnot?
It would be the same because anything that works on a globe also works on a flat circular plane. Some would
It does.
argue
It'll spin
against that.
slower in the middle, won't it?
Let me think about that. Anybody got a record I can play with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like if you're in the middle, I don't know, because supposedly you have the flat plane, right? And then you got the sun and the moon that are kind of circling around, and they change levels because they would have to, right?
Oh, so the
Otherwise,
disc isn't
like-
turning. Yeah. Okay. So the disc might not be turning.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I've heard of another theory. Like, it's not actually a disc, but it's a portal. So the disc that you're seeing is actually just an entrance. And once you actually go into the disc, you're inside the Earth plane or the plane net, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like a segment. We're only on a segment.
Yeah.
We're
So
kind of cut off from the rest. Yeah.
if I'm looking at Jupiter or Saturn, I think that I'm seeing a globe, but really I'm seeing like another flat disc that I could point a spaceship and just fly right into the world of Jupiter.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean-
there's the idea that the holes at the top of the Earth at the poles when I think it was wasn't it Operation Paperclip, one of the dudes, a
Yeah.
plane flight over the Arctic Antarctic, and he said it was like it was such a gigantic hole in the Earth that as you flew over the lip of it, it just felt like you were still flying straight.
Yeah. It's pretty
You know what I mean?
weird.
And it just looked like clouds above you because it was so large.
But what's weird though is I first
But that's
heard about that whole thing not in the flat Earth section of things, but in the hollow Earth literature. Like the original idea was he wasn't going beyond the ice wall into another world. He was actually going through a hole into like kind of like that show Land of the Lost, or in
You actually go on the inside of the Earth, kind of what we mine into, kind of thing.
yeah.
And the core of the Earth being a sun or something. I think there's a lot of South American myths about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of
And
the mythos or
I-
Taurus.
yeah, it's not quite my generation, but I believe that is kind of like how the show Land of the Lost is.
Yeah, okay.
And then there was I think there was a book like a long time ago that was written that kind of had the same premise. I don't know if that was with the Morlocks and all that.
Mm.
Maybe that
But
was
it's a very fundamental thing to work out the dimensions of the solar system and where the Earth sits compared to the rest. You know, the whole Goldilocks zone, and then
Yeah.
the size of the Earth and all the resonances that create that to manifest life in this particular frequency and where we are from the sun and everything else. The key that key is the same key all the way down to the size of a proton, the smallest thing in the universe. So it's a fundamental thing. I mean, people kind of we all talk about it, the different shapes and everything, but the way that the way that the particles assembled to create the Earth and the sun and everything else is the same action, because it's taking place in a vacuum. It's almost the same action that's happening on an atomic level.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of like
it's
that old saying,
fundamental. Yeah, it's
as
a
above,
fundamental
so
thing to
below.
know. Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Or another one might
for
be those terms, macrocosm and microcosm.
yes, that's right. Yeah, I think was it Einstein and Isaac Newton. One had the macro, the other one had the micro, but they couldn't get the atom, the pi graph of an atom and where the electrons sit to be able to replicate the solar system. So there was a divergence in the ideas that they couldn't match. So there wasn't a single what do they call it, like a unifying theory, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's my understanding that there are both things wrong with Einstein's theory. I think that would be what the theory of relativity, and Isaac Newton's I guess you would call it Newtonian physics.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Then you
I
have
think
some
this is
people
where
that
it
some people
diverges
like
off. So
either
instead of
one.
changing,
Yeah, go ahead.
instead of changing instead of changing the Newtonian physics to fit the universal physics of space, they just separated away and created quantum physics, a whole separate, different realm that kind of explains it, but there's still that it should be incorporated into the normal way that we do physics now, because it kind of repeats. The smaller the system gets, the more it repeats. So now they've got these quantum particles, gluons and muons and deuterium and some of these other products that they've found, but they seem to still be the same things that are replicated within the atom itself and outside of an atom, like a molecule. So there's this universal thing that they're talking about, which sounds crazy, especially, it sounds a lot like the what do you call it? I lost it.
It's okay. This isn't Jeopardy. You don't time out. You lose. You lost Final Jeopardy.
Yeah, there's they like Einstein.
By the way, Grub, sorry to cut you off, but I would love to see you go on Jeopardy. I think you would kick ass on there.
Jeopardy.
You guys have that down there?
I did have a friend go on, and he had to say G, and he's like G for dog, and everyone looked at him and was like, what? I think I would have ended up something like that.
I take it he didn't win.
Yeah, no.
Oh darn!
That was quite funny, but
Grub, I do want to kind of like give everybody your backstory, or just some kind of general idea of how you came to have all these wonderful ideas in your head. Like, how did things start off? I imagine you've lived down there all your life, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, born and bred Aussie. I've traveled to Europe. I've gone to Asia, Southeast Asia, Thailand. So I've traveled around a little bit, but
oh wow,
I noticed the cultures are very, very different. It's a huge difference between different cultures, which is kind of strange that when you do come to Australia, it's very multicultural, but you do find a lot of people keeping to their own communities, especially around the Sydney area. It was a kind of a plan. So after the Vietnam War, there was a lot of Vietnamese refugees, and they were all put into the same districts. And then we had, after the Second World War, we had like a white Australian policy here. So as after the Second World War and all these other cultures came, it enriched the food here in Australia, because it was kind of bland. So me growing up, it was started off with your normal roast dinner, and then it slowly evolved to mainly European, a lot of European food, and then a lot of Asian food kicked in. So
I did not know that. That's interesting.
yeah, it was yeah, we had a huge food boom here because all the land and everything. But yeah, for me it was hot weather, deserts, dust storms, and storms all day long. Everything's out there to kill you, so we're all wise on our serpents and spiders
Ugh.
and their type of attitudes and their movements, what they do. But
Yeah, you've got quite a
whole-
few more poisonous ones down there and in places like Thailand, I'm sure.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, but see, we get taught a lot about these things, but there's this other side of everything of Australia that never really gets touched, and that's what kind of led me down this path a bit. I've been looking at this kind of stuff or trying to find answers or the truth, whatever you want to call it, since about early 2000s. Would have been earlier than that. May have been forever. Maybe I was just born this way.
Born
Born
this
to
way.
curious. Yeah, but I didn't really realize I had any type of say supernatural type of questionable experiences until the internet's come out the way it has, and then slowly reformed itself to the probably 2018, around that time. For some reason, a lot more supernatural things came into a better understanding. So people started to really cross culture. So you had the UFOs talk to the Bigfoots, talk to the psychics, that talks to the to the weird tech, that talks to the occultists, and it actually kind of removed the compartmentalization between everything, and a lot of things were exposed, and that really piqued my interest because when I started looking things at, like, say, a Yowie experience, I kind of just totally pissed it off. It's nothing. Are you serious? You think there's a fucking no way? No way. Even though I had experiences like giant growls from the bush or tree shaking and then something stomp off and it was completely invisible. We all ran off as kids. And then I had no answer for these things. I always remember them. I always remember them like it happened yesterday because it was such a gnarly experience. And then, as I was saying, yeah, 2019, 2018, and then coming into the pandemic, people started talking, like having like I don't know, must have something happened. People quit different parts of government, the reporting, a whole bunch of journalists, heaps of people quit the occult and came out as whistleblowers, and information is flowing everywhere right now. And it's, for me, it's refining what we've all been thinking for years. But yeah, I always kind of wrote off these experiences. I always knew in the back of my head, though, there's something very, very curious about our universe. So I was about 18, and I ended up doing a Reiki course, become a Reiki healer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, just I gave it a go. I managed to use that to fix people's backs. I could look at the way that someone walked, and I could, like, just know exactly what muscles were messing them up for their posture. And you poke them on the back, and you go, yeah, right there, that just there, right there. And you poke them, and they're like screaming in agony. Well, I don't know how I know this, but yeah, maybe, I don't know. It was that kind of led me to the Reiki. I started thinking about these things like this, and then decided to do a lot of meditation. I used to smoke a lot of weed when I was younger, and actually, it was a crazy mushroom trip that made me quit. I gave up everything the next day. I was probably about 17, 18 or something, and kind of led me down this path a bit. Kind of had this experience of like I had taken mushrooms before, and it was incredible. I went kind of psychic. I could know who was going to walk around the corner before they walked around the corner, and then I could look at someone's face and their whole face would tell me everything about them. So it's this crazy experience. And then I kind of had the suggestion, if you want to come back and do this and have these abilities, you've got to be able to do it by yourself. You've got to learn the method to get back here to be able to see over the horizon, so to speak. You know, you're able to actually peek over the edge of the disc, so to speak. And so it was like, okay, right, I've got to do this. And then I was really, really clean and crisp with my thinking and awareness around me and everything for months afterwards. But then I did them again. I did these mushrooms again, and fuck, that was insane. That was just this big purple void opened up, and there was these faces. Like, we went for a walk down the bush, so we were kind of trekking backwards and forwards, and this big purple void opened up. It's like a vortex, and there was these 7 faces in there, and they were all older. They looked like older people, and I remember distinctly one of them looking. They had like curly hair, and they're looking at me like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. We told you about this. We're going to punish you. And then it was like
Wow.
just a bad trip after that. Yeah, there was like a real static and black tentacles, and there was this real dirty feeling. Like, and then afterwards, the next day, I gave everything up. It freaked me out. And
That reminds me of some
that's
kind of like gatekeeper thing, like some kind of entity or something just kind of keeping you unaware or keeping you in chains or not wanting you to reach certain heights, if that kind of makes sense, like something archonic.
yeah. It was. You know, you always get the geometric rainbow patterns across everything, and the first time I was kind of getting that. You could kind of see this crystallized link that was like almost like a thread that was linking everyone, or not everyone. That would be linked to something else that was in their environment, which would be linked to something else, and then so it was just this crystalline structure around everywhere. So it was almost witnessing this interconnection between everything. I mean, if you were well adversed at physics and all this kind of idea and stuff, and then you went out and did these mushrooms, a lot more would happen. You know, your experience would be a lot more meaningful. You know, try and be
Sure.
educated before you go into
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? Otherwise,
It's
it's
like
just
the more
crazy
you,
colors and
yeah, the more you
yeah,
have
yeah.
kind of swimming around in your head, the more, the more detailed the experience is going to be and the more places you're going to go. It makes me wonder if I would have waited until I was older and done them. But I kind of agree with what you were saying earlier. Like, there was a point where, I mean, I got into psychedelics quite a bit, and it was almost like I could recall the experiences later on while completely sober, or at least I could still kind of think in the same way, if that makes sense.
Mm. It's I still think though that you need to take them first if you wanted to ever. I mean, how often do you find someone that hasn't done some type of psychedelic experience that have ended up down this path?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's unless they might be psychic or some way inclined that way, that already have something active. And then if you do take something like that, it might distort it, which would be interesting to be a good test. But yeah, these experiences led to like a years later. My little brother was older. I think he just left the military, and he'd never tried mushrooms before. So me and a friend were like, "Come on, we'll go camping. We'll go take these mushrooms in." And we go and get them ourselves. We go up to these up into the mountains, and we get these wood chip ones. There is the cow dung cubensis, psilocybin cubensis and sciensis. We go for the Sabaragenses, which is like they're like wavy caps, very very similar, but they tend to. We don't know if they're native or not, that's a bit of a trip. We found them out in the wild, but very very rarely. But to find them where we find them, it has been occupied. The land's been occupied, so we don't know if they are native or not. But they're mean. So we went camping, and we ate these things. We only had, I think it was about 2.5 grams each or something. And my little brother ended up eating dirt on the fire next to the fire,
Oh,
I
jeez.
locked myself in the car because I knew I was gonna. This is crazy. And my other mate, he was trying to hold off and wait while he was watching us two. And I slipped into that purple void thing again. It was weird. It was wild. It felt like everything was spinning away, and then like it felt like you're kind of falling. And then the only sense that I could that I had that I was able to grasp reality must have been my mouth, because I ended up just biting the steering wheel in the car. As if I was falling, and that was the only tether to reality that I had. And then all I knew, I was in this fucking purple void thing, and it was like windy, like a vortex. You know, it was like being in the middle of a storm. And then at the other end, I knew there was someone there, and it was my little brother. And we sat there and had this conversation, just about, like, we had to scream at the top of your lungs. And then I'm like, "Are you fucked?" And he's like, "Yes." just the random conversation. He's like, "Are you good?" He's like, "Yes." And then, a couple of hours later, we come out, I'd have a cigarette, and he comes over. I'm like, give him a cigarette. And he's like, "Did that just happen?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro, that just happened, man. We just had a conversation, didn't we? And you heard me, didn't you?" He's like, "Yeah. Yeah, I heard you." I was like, "What the fuck, man?" That was insane. And I've never forgotten that. That was out of
So
this fucking world.
you're not talking about like a verbal conversation. You're talking about like a telepathic conversation.
Yeah, somewhere else, man. I don't even remember being in the body. It was all of a sudden you're in this storm, and you try to, like, as if you hold your hands up to try to, like, block, keep your eyes clean, but you feel yourself doing it, but there was no, I don't know, there was nothing there. It was like a white light, but towards the edges, as it got towards you, it was like this violet, like kind of pinky violet color, eh? It's just this huge vortex thing, man. And he was at the other end and was fucking screaming at each other.
I've had a similar experience. It wasn't on mushrooms, but it was on ayahuasca, and it was with a family member, and it was basically the same thing, like a telepathic conversation, and definitely stands out in my mind as one of the weirder experiences that has really kind of inspired what I'm doing now. So there's definitely something going on there. I've heard other stories about people talking about that happening like back in the 60s too, like during the hippies movement. I guess they called it splicing, when they would kind of join heads. And I think something similar happened with Terrence McKenna and his brother.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, he's had many different experiences. So that sounds very much like the Aboriginals. The Aboriginals in Australia, at least, the last to kind of be interfered with by Westerners or looked at, that was still holding their original tribal beliefs, was over in Western Australia. And there was a dude that went out with his wife, and they went around and they found that the women were very, they would use telepathy on a daily basis. So there was one stage in where you have, when a woman husband dies, they have to go through a ritual for a year or for a particular length of time to satisfy the dead spirit. And so she would have to dress in white or paint herself with white, with pipe clay or ash, and it would demonstrate the sorrow. So she's still mourning. And so if any other tribal member came up and seen them, they would know, she's in mourning. You're not allowed to associate with her. And she was not allowed to talk. And the ramifications weren't necessarily direct in this world. Like, it wasn't to keep other people happy. It was actually understood that it was to keep the spirit realm at ease. So no one would speak the name of this person. And if this person had the name of a particular plant, they would actually change the name of the plant, not to mention the name. And so these women at this stage, for maybe 1 year to maybe 1.5, 2 years of silence, they would communicate with their fingers or with their mind. So this was practiced regularly within larger communities. There's death as much as there is birth. So there was always someone mourning, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Looks like we got some people filling in the backstage. You mind if I bring some of your buds on?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's go ahead and bring on Lee. Absolutely.
Now then, gentlemen.
Hello,
No.
hello, then.
You all right,
then,
mate?
General.
You all right, pal? Dan, mate. It is a true honour
Absolutely.
to be
It's good to have
speaking with
you on here
both
finally.
you fine gentlemen. All of you both.
Thank you.
Know, and funny about what you just mentioned, then, Grub, where you mentioned ash. Now, I could be wrong, but is there some link to the use of ash and like skinwalkers or shapeshifters?
Yeah,
some sort of connection there,
depending on
maybe.
the color. I think in Australia you've got the spiritual assassin. He's like the executioner. He would be doing the same. They would be playing themselves with the white. The skinwalkers. I mean, the culture themselves. They painted themselves as well. American Indians.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think the white color though was a direct link to particular ceremonies. So I don't think white.
Right. Okay.
In Australia, white was generally used for like most things, but I think. Yeah, the American Indians. I think the white, especially the white ash, would be spirit and death. This is just
that's it. White ash, mate. Yeah.
But I think
ash.
for them they had an importance with their colours. I think the old photos, a lot of the people they say it might be a skinwalker, but it's not. It's a particular ceremony that they do.
Right. Okay.
They do dress up. They wear a skin, or a hood. That I think they have to disguise themselves. And that's the same reason, though, as why the women during these ceremonies, death ceremonies, that they do paint themselves. They do change themselves, and then after the funeral services, like once the ceremonies, they'll actually run. They'll try to run away from the graveside in a maze, like in a special way to try to lose the spirit.
Like cause
so
confusion.
They'll try to disguise themselves. Yeah.
I've heard
run
of
away from the funeral afterwards.
Like people taking like a bear skin or a wolf skin and putting it on their head or something like that, and then taking a bunch of crazy jungle drugs and stuff like that, and how it gives you the ability to like, break this stuff down and change your DNA or something like that.
Yeah, we need some of that.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, it does. I reckon it's DNA or at least the blood. Some kind of electrical force here. Some kind of some other realm that we're unaware of that I think we're actually picking up on now through all these different conversations and the linking between like aliens and Bigfoot and fucking portals and shit.
Yeah.
So many connections now.
And that's back to that unifying theory. Yeah. It seems like this unifying theory of everything type of idea as well, which is back to the Einstein and Newtonian physics trying to find that missing link to actually create a fucking unifying theory of everything almost, you know.
It does help with these conversations, doesn't it?
Well, there's also they
all seem the same, don't they?
Too, or the werewolves where they gotta like bite you and maybe get some of their spit inside your body.
Yeah,
it's like you gotta be
then you've got the Gnostic mass or different occultic mass where they you got to consume blood within a cake.
Yeah, apparently they do that in Freemasonry, don't they? One of the levels.
Well,
it's
New York Preacher was saying when he was in the OTO, they gave him some cake that they baked and it had like menstrual blood in it.
Oh, so is it soul cakes or something like that? They called
something like that. I wanted to puke when I heard it. I think it's almost along the same line.
You find the same thing, say 17,000 years ago. They found the skull caps. So where someone has eaten and manipulated human remains and then turned the skull into a vessel to drink from or something.
Oh wow!
So this and you can see it's not just out of.
It's you couldn't make it up, could you? It's fucking crazy, isn't it?
You there?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So we got this skull cap that 17,000 years old around Italy, but it was not out of necessity. It doesn't seem to be because they were starving to death. So it's some type of ritual that they're doing.
Yeah.
And, it definitely seems like the body was butchered. So whether like there's a lot of
Whoa.
it's contested whether they ate it or not, actually devoured it, or whether it was they just breaking the bones up for whatever reason. But it looks like someone's taken the marrow out of the bones. So someone definitely. It looks like cannibalization. It's just there's no actual direct proof that these people had eaten the body or not.
Sounds heavy, that, mate. Do you know what? It wouldn't surprise
And
me.
that's old.
Cannibalism
so
still goes on. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, Papua New Guinea. It still goes on.
Yeah, there's best places around there,
Papua New
mate.
Guinea.
Yeah.
It is
a lot of black magic spells that require drinking out of a human skull, or at least suggest that you get one.
Yeah, you're probably spot on there, Dan. You know, it's part and parcel, I guess, isn't it?
So there's ravens in the house too now.
Fucking Raven.
All three of us at the same time. How's that for crazy?
Yeah, I got you your whole gang over here.
Hey,
Four deep. They were 4 deep tonight.
Well, you guys were talking.
Two Eiffel Towers.
You guys were talking about white ash and Native Americans.
Yes, Raven. Actually, you probably know best on this.
That's to convince people that you're already dead and you're not afraid of dying.
Really?
Yeah, the warriors would paint themselves in white ash and white paint, and it was saying that I'm already dead, so you can't kill me.
I love that.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, very similar meaning out here. Then it's very, very
nice
very similar. That's why the whites used. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the most famous is the Cheyenne warriors.
Cheyenne.
When they went to war, and the Crow too. When they went to war, they painted themselves white because to go to war and have to kill somebody means that you're dying every time you kill someone. So they considered themselves already dead.
Raven, you said then the Cheyenne and the Crow. Is that the Crow as in the bird, the Crow? Is there a tribe?
No. Well, in the movie, he painted his skin white, and it was the same imagery, yes. But I'm talking about the Crow tribe up in Wyoming.
Oh, so it's an actual tribe called the Crow tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay.
There'd be plenty, wouldn't there? There'd be a few.
And in the movie, he painted himself white, and that was the symbology they were using. He considered himself already dead.
Yeah, in Australia, I've seen just some of the old cartoons made from throughout Aboriginal West. See the gentleman using fire. You see the Gadachi. It's called Kadachi, the Kadachi man, and he'll be throwing different things into the fire. So it's all mainly based on fire magic.
Fire magic. I know. You mentioned fire magic there, Grub. But do you remember when we did that episode down on when you came on my show and did blood magic?
Yeah,
that was very, very interesting. That, mate, I love that episode.
Well, I know the fire thing. It has to do with when you watch like a candle or watch the fire, you enter into one of those like hypnagogic states or a trance where things are more easily able to penetrate into your subconscious. So I think that kind of along the lines of what Grub is describing.
That sounds.
And that's the state where your magic will be the most effective when you're, when you get into that trance. It's just you alone and you see that fire there. And I guess you could probably draw some comparisons to like the light bringer stuff and all that, the light and the darkness.
You'll find what fire is to be like a disintegration process, or bringing everything back to the elemental elements, the fundamental elements, and then you see the light come out as well. So it's almost as if the light that is being consumed by that wood has been released, and it's going back And as it's going back, it's almost like a vortex that you could put something into to send back to where it's going, to send it on its way.
That's a trip.
Because notice the flame is there, and then the flame goes away. So it's almost like it's one like a black sun. Then you have a filament from that sun come off, and then because it's separate from the rest of the sun, we call it a filament or a solar storm, even though it's just the sun being the sun. And it doesn't necessarily mean that filament is separate from that sun, but because it's leaching off it, it is a separate entity. So as that filament comes off the sun, we see it. So that's the flame coming off the source and then going back into the source as it's been stored in the wood.
That's the reason for, up until recently, that was the reason for cremation, is because by rendering that fire and releasing that energy, you're returning the ash to the ground, but you're releasing the energy that the person was. And for a long time, it was a crime to bury somebody. They considered that cursing them.
Is that why you don't see graves being so old, going that far back?
Yeah, especially here in the States, the tribes. Yeah. The tribes always cremated their bodies. Now some of them would do the high pyres and let the animals take their fill first, but then they would burn them.
That was biggie.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on the date over here, but I can find out next time I go the cemetery way. But I'm sure it's something like maybe 1800s or something. It's around here where that's the oldest it'll be.
I've seen those those Native American burials where they're like lifted off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're yeah.
I think there was an island around here in the Pacific Northwest where they had a bunch of those those graves where the sticks and then the person's up there, like on the ground.
Are they the same ones what you see like on documentaries and stuff, Dan?
Yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah, right.
But the idea is you give nature back what nature wants. Go ahead, Grub.
Similar here, they put them in a tree. They find a big gum tree or the tallest tree, and they bring the body up into the tree and leave it there while they go on their journey because they're migratory. They'd migrate around. By the time they come back to that area again, they go and check it. And once it's all the birds, mainly crows, kookaburras, whatever, meat-eating birds would actually pluck it away. Mainly the birds, actually.
Ooh, wow.
And then they collect the bones, and then they would rub them with ochre. And this time they'd be using red ochre.
What's ochre?
And ochre's the like the white clay, but it'd be a red clay.
Right. In the dirt. So it's like a natural.
And yeah, and they just use the same body fat. So the fat that's there, they'd use that, and they rub it just there on the spot, kind of cover the ochre, and then they put all the bones into a log, big hollowed log. And they go and stand the log up, almost like similar to a totem pole. So it'd be a painted hollow pole.
Oh, right.
And they plant that in the ground, or they find another tree, and then they'll put the bones into the tree. So at some level, they would transport with them. They might have to carry them to the next place. So, but it was all done. Everything was done with a ritual, and it was all done within the circle. And then before you enter the circle, to disintegrate the tether, so you don't bring whatever's in the circle outside the circle, you have to have a smoking ceremony. And this is where you've got to get the green leaves, and you light the fire, get the tinder, and then put it out. So it smokes, and then everyone's going to smoke themselves before they enter the circle.
Right, so
that's their cleansing ceremony.
Yeah, see, we do the same. Yeah, we do the same thing here. When you're going into a sweat house, you smoke yourself first, and then when you leave the sweat house, you smoke yourself again, so that everything stays.
Yeah, right. The smoking house. Yeah. Yo.
Grub, do you know, like your Aborigines, how you mentioned, like a totem pole? Do you go anywhere where you could just like next time you're having a pot about and that, take a picture for us and just show them, because I've never seen them. You know, like an Aboriginal one.
Yeah, right.
Like you
Yeah,
know, how
they
he sort of like it's built up like with like bones and stuff. It look fucking really interesting to see what they look like.
Yeah, they don't really talk about them much. You can go to the museum and find them, and then you can find kind of similar.
Yeah, but I bet they're
just
proper
art pieces.
secretive, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they if you go way up north, up towards Queensland, it becomes like some pretty extravagant carvings, and it almost looks like an Islander influence or something from somewhere else, but it's definitely deep within Queensland. They were master carvers. They did some pretty crazy stuff.
Now, Grub, I do want to switch directions just kind of because I wanted to bring up a topic that you said earlier that you would like to discuss. And that's our buddy Graham Hancock. As many people know, there's a hot new documentary that he released, and I understand that it's very controversial. I believe you wanted to speak on that a bit, Grub?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now, I haven't finished watching it myself. I'm sitting down watching it. A lot of the sites
I've not seen it myself yet.
Yeah, a lot of the info. It must have taken them a while to make it. So it's kind of stuff that a lot of us have already gone over, or something that you've seen from Brian Forster or someone else. You would know these sites and know some of the dates that have been put forward, but it just kind of. Does anyone know what the 1930s and 1920s thought about Atlantis? And who were the people that were going out of their way, spending a lot of money to uncover its roots?
I wouldn't be familiar with that. That sounds really interesting, though.
Do you know anyone? Does anyone have any ideas of what?
Edgar Casey, just off the top of my head.
Graham Hancock.
He was.
Graham Hancock.
What age was he?
Yeah.
The Nazis. The Nazis' entire basis of their belief system and then the spiritual structure that they were building alongside their political structure was based on the fact that they knew the secrets of Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to Tibet. They were going to South America. They were going to Egypt. All before the World War II, right? So they were some of the biggest archaeological discoveries
Antarctica
were from them, and Antarctica. They were going everywhere. Now, in their eyes, they thought that they were going to go out and find the source of the Atlantean people, and that was the Aryan race who ended up in Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone now to turn around and say, hey, this shit might be real, is instantly, and unbeknownst to a lot of people, he's called racist, because the first people to really kind of put this idea forward in modern ages was the Nazis, using it as propaganda to promote themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard anyone bring up this idea, but that's exactly why the mainstream and a lot of archaeologists don't like it.
Oh yeah,
because they automatically think that there's going to be some kind of linking to who's who. So who is the Atlanteans then? Who has the right to bear this technology and this fucking whatever?
Donald Trump. He is the Atlantean.
Donald Trump, the Bavarian, blue eyes and blonde hair.
He the man.
Well, see, the Nazis got very upset. The Nazis got very upset with Albert Einstein and said that his science is just based on the Kabbalah. He's like, they're like, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. The whole relativity and atoms and all this kind of shit. They were saying it's all this something else, and they're the ones that we say now we're making these fucking time machines and UFOs.
Yeah,
they were in Tibet. They got photos of Tibetan monks sitting down with Nazis. Mm-hmm. They've even got like I think wasn't there a Tibetan monk found in Hitler's bunker? He was dead.
Yeah,
yeah, something like that.
They found a Tibetan monk in there.
Man, that's
So
weird.
they weren't. So in that case, who are the Aryans? So if he's there with his Tibetan monk as a religious advisor of some sort, is how does Nazism link back to them unless you bring in and consider the idea that they were looking for Atlantis? Because you go to the Tibetans,
racist. Why
and
would
their
they
belief is we made fuck. Yeah, the Tibetans were saying it. You know, we levitated stones with trumpets and shit. Before that, we were fucking shooting the Atlanteans with nukes. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're also allied with the Japanese, who are Asian. Like, if they were so racist, why would they ally themselves with the Japanese?
Yeah, I know.
Maybe just to use them.
So
That's one
it's
argument.
But I mean, why? I mean, during 1918, I believe, there was Soviet Union money that was, I think it was actually before the Soviet Union. They had a swastika on their money.
Oh.
But it wasn't representing
interesting.
what we think it represents today. To them, it meant like an international symbol of people,
Did you
almost
say that
almost like the 12 lost tribes of Israel. You know, it was this lost Atlantean race that was scattered.
Yeah, Grub, did you say that was on Russian currency then, mate?
Yeah, it was.
Russian currency, right.
It's kind of to put it in native terms, it's kind of like the people of the four winds, you know, scattered in all directions.
Like north, south, east,
How
west.
similar is that to the? It sounds so similar to the Jewish stories. And see, then you've got the Kabbalah, and you've got the magic out of the Mediterranean. Oh, not the Mediterranean, the Mesopotamia, which all of them are sons of Shem. So they're all Shemite. They're all Semites. It's not necessarily the religion you need to follow to be a Semite.
Yeah,
you're sons of Shem. That's it. You know, like the sons of Japheth, the sons of the sons of Ham. You know, they're all. This is where we get our races from, and this is where the Germans were going back to these areas, especially to the Sintusta tribes, which were kind of maybe the Hyksos that came through, the Aryan races that came through and invaded through Mesopotamia. They were going to the roots where those people came from.
The Noah's Ark supposedly landed somewhere in the Caucasus Mountains, didn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. Yeah, Mount Ararat.
Yeah, but the ark they found on Mount Ararat looks like a big boat. It's not a cube. It's not anything that was described. So, okay.
Oh, I think I've seen images of that, Raven, as well. Yeah.
There is. There's a weird idea. It's actually it should be made out of reeds. Apparently, so he harvested reeds, and then apparently it's made by making a giant rope, and then you spiral that rope to make a giant bowl, and then you can put floors within that bowl to reinforce it. And this was all then coated with tar. I think some scientist made it in India, because it was somewhere in that area that they still make this particular kind of riverboat. It's a giant bowl made out of reeds. And the dimensions in the Bible should suggest that it should be one of these things. It's a reed made out of bowl. It's a bowl made out of reeds.
And that would make sense for that area, because at that time that area was pretty lush and it would have had a lot of cane.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, the interesting thing to me when you start talking. Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too. A lot of people don't pick up on, but when they start talking about the orientation of original races, it wasn't just the Aryans. There were several, but the Aryans seem to be most directly associated with the people who had to flee the continent of Atlantis in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You know, to me, it seems like a label, because if they were in that bad a shape, they would have had to blend in with all kinds of other people in order to survive.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean
I guess they would have all been in the same boat, wouldn't they, back then as well? They would have had to, work together to survive.
So was Noah an Atlantean? Was he just one of the surviving groups that got washed all the way into the Mediterranean? Because the Irish tales, the Irish tales
Strong,
go back
mate.
to the same idea, being a flood, and
Yes,
some of the
they
Irish
do,
myths
mate.
go way back to the same era, and some of the 1800 scholars from the 1800s.
Fomorians, yeah.
Yeah, they go on about the Fomorians and that all these other people, but saying that they could be sons of Arphashad. And Arphashad was another, I think he may have been a son of Shem. And so that a lot of the Gaelics, the Gauls that came, this would have been the corded ware culture, I believe. It's either the beaker culture, the beaker ware culture, or the corded ware culture. This is what they're known as in archaeology. They swept over, bringing bronze with them in, say, 3,200 BC. So the wave before them, they think, were the ones that made Stonehenge, and that they were slaughtered by these next group of people who came bringing cattle. And these people are the ones that say if I get my blood tested, it'll say that I'm from Ireland, but that my oldest DNA will trace back to Turkey.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
And that's where most of us will be
Egypt
that.
as well. It come back to as well, don't they, mate?
Well, it's funny because there's some Maoris in New Zealand that are green-eyed, blonde-haired, and they're one of the older tribes that were already there apparently. And they all say that in their culture, they say that they came from Egypt. Now, when they had their DNA tested, it came back as Iranian DNA.
Oh shit!
Which is interesting.
See, that's ironic because a lot of the tribes here test back to Persian roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know, like Scythian Gulf, fucking the area where Scythian DNA covers, it wouldn't surprise me if it was all over fucking Earth realm.
Yeah, or at least all of Europe. See, they
original
say in
tribes,
the Bible,
yeah.
In the old 1800s, they were saying that the sons of Japheth, so Japheth was the first son of Noah, and that he, I think that was the case. The son of Noah, I think it was, and then he spread all the way over Europe, and he was the most plenty of them. So the most prolific trace back from Noah in the Bible ended up all across Europe. And that these were the people that, like, they were practicing the original religion that Noah was practicing. Hence there's the burning of the effigies in the UK. There's a lot of ancient, like the Olam writing from Ireland.
Yeah,
That's the ancient writing, that, isn't it, mate? Is that the ancient writing?
Yeah. Same age as attested to be with Phoenicians. So they're both being written together at the same time. So Phoenicians are Canaanites. So we've all got these connections, and it seems like, well, if that's the case, why does a lot of Americans and Australians back in the 1990s, 1980s all get circumcised if we're not Jewish? Because we are Jewish, and we're all fucking sons of Noah in the eyes of these civilizations that we live in today. Somewhere consider us to be fucking. I'm sure they consider us to be Jewish at some level, and for some reason they circumcise every kid.
Well, they try to, mate, at least.
And I think it's got something to do with this. This is
I'm
what they
not
believe.
myself,
This was the belief in the 1800s. So there's an idea that I think that maybe. Yeah, maybe they think that we're all some kind of Jew, the Gentile, other sons of Noah, Japheth.
Like circumcision, it's a very strange practice. And, I mean, I've covered it with Sean McCann. It's disgusting. The origins around circumcision is fucking so wrong.
Now, here in Australia,
and they're still pushing
the tribes. Yeah, it's funny though, because some of the northern tribes in Australia did practice circumcision. So how fucking old is that practice? And where did the Aboriginals pick it up if they were doing the ceremony? See, down in the Sydney Basin area, the tribes around here, and maybe some of the other local tribes within, say, New South Wales or the Southern Law. So Australian law was split with the Northern Law and Southern Law. So the Southern Law, they practiced. At least some of them practiced punching out the tooth the bottom canine tooth of the males when they come of age.
What?
So they'd actually get a stick and a stone, and they'd line it up with the tooth and hammer it out. Now it was the same at that. It was. It was. Yeah. This is. Nah, this is. It was
bit much,
part of becoming a man, man. You're gonna make it. Like. But by doing it, it's you can see that it doesn't necessarily have to be circumcision, but it was some other type of
disfigurement,
abuse.
Yeah,
that's right. Some other type of maybe even scarring. A lot of places practice scarring.
Mm-hmm.
Scarring.
So I mean, even the women practice. Yeah, that's right. So you would get a stone piece of chert, and you would start carving lines across the chest, all the way across the chest.
Ooh,
and then you would get dirt and rub it into it. And you get resin to make them puff up, to make them scar up. Yeah. So you see a lot of photos of raised lines across their chest.
So it's like
they're like tattoos almost, but they're like raised tattoos. Yeah. Okay. Now some of the women would do this too, out of signs of if you're too beautiful, you would do it because it would fucking stop people coming and trying to kidnap you. You would have.
That's one way to solve.
You would have. You would scar your arm in a sign of grieving. So it there was other reasons for it, but no, some type of you're right, Raven, some type of disfigurement at that age of coming to manhood.
That's fucking trauma.
So
that is inflicting trauma.
How old is this?
Jesus.
That's right. How old is this? In Europe, they knew that you were given a dog, a puppy, to rear for yourself at the age of 3 to 5 years old, and then you would live with this pup. If the pup got into trouble, you got into trouble, and vice versa, and you would grow up with this pup. By the time you come of age, they take you in. You got to kill the dog. You cook it. You either consume some or not. You skin it. Wear the skin. You got to wear the skin of your dog, and then the elders, the elder men that are there, tell you to fuck off. They kick you out, and then you got to go and invade a new area or go and get some sheep, go to work together, and then you got to come back next season, and you got to come back with more cattle, with women, with territory, and then you would spread. So those territories are now yours. So when your son grows up, you kick him out, and then you go and get more land. So this was set probably about 5,000 years ago.
Reminds me of some of the
things that the European
house by their dad.
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's kind of like
it's very European, isn't it? That's right.
Yeah.
But you make sure you come back with women and cattle. Or don't come back.
Son, get out of here. You come back with some bitches.
Yeah. But you think about that trauma of having to kill your own dog.
Yeah, like I guess that's to like harden your kind of harden you.
But you weren't disfigured.
Well, and
so you weren't wounded.
But now on the other side of that,
wounded mentally.
Yeah, on the other side of that, though, you have to remember we're talking about cultures that prepared children from a very young age to survive, to know the skills that they had to have. So it wasn't like they were turning out kids today that are 20 and don't know how to cook.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not to
that was the city state. That didn't exist till the city state.
No, I mean you're out in the wilderness or wherever. It's not like you're, in the city or the countryside where everybody owns the property. I mean, there's plenty of room for you to expand, I'm sure.
Well, they used to do. There were a few tribes here in the States that used to do the. They used to do the year of wandering, I guess is the best way that I can translate it. But when you came of age, you had to wander for a year and come back to the tribe. Now, it wasn't about collecting things or collecting animals or whatever, although some did. It was that you had to survive for a year to prove that you were man enough to be responsible to the tribe. I don't know how to explain that any other way.
Felt like proof that you sort of like worthy to be in the tribe. Would that be like that?
There you go.
Raven?
Yeah. There you go.
Because I mean, all the way up to the Irish or Celtic law was if after all that was all over, if you didn't get married, you were kicked out of the tribe for whatever reason. If you couldn't get married, you were kicked out.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Get out of here. No one likes you.
Yeah, but wait, the only one that's left looks like a walrus.
Move in with the walruses.
Get out, you walrus!
But you know what? You even see that in nature sometimes.
This was
like
this
lions.
was
They do something similar where the like ones that are coming of age will kind of go off on their own.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Well, no, that year of wandering, it just proved that you had the skills that were required to be part of the tribe and to protect and provide. And it proved that you were capable of taking care of a family too, you know. But they were taught all these skills from the time they were young. I mean, like, you know, my family was a really good example. I was dressing out chickens out in the backyard when I was like 4 years old. You know, my granddad would cut the head off, and then my job was to scald them in the hot water and pluck feathers. You know, and I was like 4 or 5 years old when I was doing that. So I mean, we were taught these things from a very early age.
Yeah, it's different now, mate. And I mean,
common.
I mean,
People go to jail for saying naughty words now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You fuck all now, can you? Well,
I mean,
I used to love
there was another one here. We had.
Stuff.
There was a.
Sorry,
well, I mean, that's how
about.
much things. I was
Sorry,
going to say that that tells you how much things have changed just since the 60s. You know, I come up in the 60s and 70s, and we were still at 4 and 5 years old, 6 years old. We were still. I carried in firewood. I helped them when it came to time to cull the chickens. Same thing with the hogs. We were taught that this is how you're going to survive. And if you didn't learn these skills, I mean, like we'd go fishing. You clean your own fish. I'll show you how to do it, and I'll help you. But you're going to clean your own fish if you're going to eat it. I mean, that's just the way we were raised. So you think about a time before all the cities and all the luxuries that we have now. Those kids then, they would have known everything they needed to by the time they were coming of age to survive.
Yeah,
we had some Aboriginals here. They found out about farming, and they were offered and explained what farming was, and they just looked at them and went like what? Are you serious? Like, you want me to just dig all this land up for a year, and then get some? Yep. No, that's it. We just go to the next place and like dig a little bit. we don't want to fucking dig. Are you serious? They looked at it and said, that's a joke. The way that you want to farm is a joke compared to what we do.
Yep.
We're busy. We can't spend our time digging the soil. We need to fix the rest of the entire fucking continent. We need to burn shit and fix this up and then come back and eat everything that comes out. And so they kind of mock.
Yep.
The idea was you would see them. There's stories where they go back to country, and they would. This is back in the 1800s and early times with the farmers and shit. They just leave their shoes at the front door and then they walk out. They pack their clothes up and get naked and leave it there with the farmstead, and then they walk out the front door.
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of going back home with them means to take your shoes off and then go out the front door.
you always
That's freedom, and then no one can stop you. Yeah,
it's always kind of spun by the people that are going in and tearing everything down and killing the native people and killing all the animals. They always kind of spin it where, oh, these people, they wanted civilization. They're begging us for this or that. But I don't think that's true. I think it's just another case of, the victors kind of rewriting the history books or the oral history.
That's true. I've got a feeling he the cultures were too different. They even, when Captain Cook came here, he came here with a Maori. He came here with an islander that was well respected. It was a chieftain, and he could sail to any of the islands in the Pacific Islands, and he could communicate with them. But when he brought him to Australia, he was. Yeah. That's right. Of all like to New Zealand, to Tonga, to the Polynesian islands.
Yeah,
But
because
when
they're all
they
different
finally
languages, aren't they,
goes,
then,
Captain
mate?
Cook just goes, I'm going to go west. Say again.
Right. They're different languages, aren't they? They're
Was that?
countries, so what of must have been pretty
Yeah. There's
fucking.
like a dialects.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, I think that there's an idea that they may have come down long time ago from the Philippine area, the Philippines, but
Right.
there
Okay.
is that Iranian DNA, which is also in the Americas, which is kind of Easter Island and all that. The Giants, Maori's are big boys, man. I'll tell you that. Right?
I think
Yeah, they are, mate. They
know,
are. When you see them on the playing rugby, they're fucking huge, aren't they? And Tongans,
the
Samoans.
in China, the Uyghurs. You guys have heard of that, right? Like the Chinese are kind of like oppressing them and putting them in camps and stuff like that.
Uyghurs,
The
yeah, the
Uyghurs.
Uyghurs,
Uyghurs.
Uyghur.
They have Turk in their DNA, Turk, and they also their religion is like it's the Canaanite religion, of like the Israelis and Israelites.
Same.
Yeah, weird stuff.
It's weird that way, isn't
You got the
it?
pyramids too out there too in that Western China desert.
Well, it's really funny because when you start looking at the commonalities, the pyramids here in the States, the pyramids in South America, I mean, they're everywhere. And then you have dialectic similarities too. There are tribes in Russia that are kind of isolated, kind of their own regions, and they have similar dialects to tribes here in the United States.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, you've mentioned that, mate. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know what they're
that's
called,
amazing.
Mate,
I can't pronounce their
that.
names.
It's crazy, that, man.
I can't pronounce their names.
So
but these. Go ahead, Grub.
Going back to Graham Hancock, like, and they want to say that us talking this is racist for some reason, that they think that we're going to turn around and choose a particular race as some type of supremacist ideology rather than understanding it's all of us. In some way or another, it's all of us. And the abilities that they were doing, like, it's kind of profound.
Yeah,
I think that should be more talked about.
Because for all they know, we're going to uncover stuff that makes all races look better. Like we might uncover a lot of Black history in the process and a lot of the stuff that was stolen from them.
Yeah.
Well, truthfully, I sit and I look, and the more I studied and the more I looked, like, especially now having contact with Grub in Australia, I'm looking at all these similarities, which I'd already kind of latched onto, that we are all the tribes that were scattered. And that means that we all should be united. I think that's what scares them more than anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. The only thing that separates us is the flag, these flags, these borders, and these ideas that they've done these deals that are separate. I mean, it's this is for the city state. It's for a city state to operate. That we will have something to do.
It goes back to the
you can't have slackers in a city state. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Gilgamesh and his wall. What's a wall other than a law?
Mm-hmm.
WALLAW.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, for me,
since if you want someone to cooperate behind the wall and be protected by the wall, there needs to be laws. If you live on the outside of the wall, it's lawless. It's wallless. There's no wall to protect you.
Exactly.
Huh.
So we all live in city states now,
Well, and the other thing too is if you look at it, if people start talking like we have with General and Grub, and we've got people in Mexico, and it's amazing the group that he's been able to put together. And now we've starting to see it on other podcasts like this one, y'all. You start seeing the commonalities, and then you start seeing the common lies that all of us have been told through the decades and centuries. And then you have to start looking, well, now who's telling these lies to keep everybody divided?
Yeah, that's the question out there.
When I reckon we need to. I mean, that's true, but do we want to hang these people, or do we want to just forget about them and move on?
That's
because now I'm starting to think that, yeah. because we've got this new technology dropping out. I mean, I got to tell you, a lot of this technology is based it's almost based on ancient thinking or Kabbalah ideas and the way that magic is performed, but they're relating that back now to plasma and light, the actual physics and the quantum physics of light and plasma. And there's people now that are applying these channeled technologies to create free energy or 0 point energy using plasmoids and toroids and tornado technology and vortexing and but it's funny though, because when we look at, say, the priests that were handling the ark, they were practicing, say, spiritual cleanliness, because you had to be wearing gloves and wearing a thick, heavy suit with gold filaments in it. You had to wear shoes and gloves and all this stuff. On the other hand, they were practicing,
and they had to be grounded.
Cleanliness. That's right. They were practicing electrical cleanliness. And we use electricity today, but we only use 10% of the potential understanding of what it is. Like we all know what electricity is and what light is, but we don't know still. Like when they did the double split experiment with light, so they had a laser and they shot the laser, and there was 2 slits in the opposite side, and they would take a photo out the other end. And when they would take a photo, they would declare that there was the photon from 2 different angles was 2 different colors and 2 different spots at the same time. So this was kind of brought in the idea of the quantum option and the idea of Schrodinger's cat, which means if you fire a photon down a Y-shaped tube, one side kills the cat in the box, the other one doesn't. Now, the cat is either dead or alive, but it's not dead or alive until someone opens the box and looks. Then the decision is made.
Yep.
Right? But in the double split experiment, if we understand that there is no particle, it's just a wave, then it doesn't matter where you look at it, the wave is going to be there. Once it goes through those 2 slits, there's going to be 2 propagating waves. So when another example is light, right? The smaller the light wavelength, the tighter the light wavelength, so you're going up towards gamma, you've got more energy. There's more capacity for energy within that particle. If you get infrared wavelengths, it's very large wavelengths. It's big footprint, but you can't contain much energy within that light. So it's the exact opposite to what a box would be within our reality. So we've got a container, and to put more into the container, you need a bigger box. But in the realm of electricity and light, it's actually opposite. So when you hear a lot of as above as below and all this other kind of stuff in the new age, or whoever is talking about it, they're actually talking about the atomic level, the smallest level in our universe. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everything's very opposite within that realm. It's very backwards. The smaller the capacitor, the more energy it can hold. The thinner the layers in a capacitor, the more energy it holds. So it's a very opposite dialect that's kind of appears that if we try to apply to our physical reality with the knowledge that we have, it doesn't make sense and it sounds like magic. But if we understand that we're all, sorry, Lee.
Do you think it sounds a bit like upside down world, so to speak, that kind of?
I was getting ready to say what it seems like to me is like over the last, say since the Industrial Revolution in the 1600s when they started factories, they have intentionally inverted things, made it less efficient, made it less effective, but in doing so, they installed a lot more control over people.
No, more work, more consumption, more burning, more energy, like everything. Yeah,
They've done it the least efficient way. Royally fucking us over.
Well, and the thing about it is it's exactly the opposite of the original teachings.
That's what scares me about this whole vaccine thing. If our bodies are electricity and there's all this electrical stuff going on, What about these weird metals they're pumping into our bodies? How is that going to affect that whole process? And how's the whole energy and the earth and the magnetism?
Some of the modern alchemists today have figured out how to turn human ash into gold, because
I have heard something about this.
Yeah, everything in the known universe is made of the smallest thing in the known universe. So all you need to do is put those things together.
Yep.
So if you look at our blood cell are little tiny element factories. So it's not that it has iron to push out when it needs iron or to go and collect iron from somewhere. On the electrical level, that blood cell itself actually manifests that iron, depending on the frequency and the vibration that it's buzzing at, and how much energy and how big it is. If it's expanding or contracting, if your blood's pumping, like, or if it's pushing or sucking, it moves that blood cell around. And some of this new tech, they get a sphere and they pinch the top in the middle, and when they finished it with it, it looks like a lozenge. It looks just like a fucking blood cell. It's incredible. It's like our blood cells could quite possibly, like, our bodies are little fusion reactors on an atomic level. So the difference between hydrogen and helium, right, is one has one proton, the other one has two protons. But the difference is that now it has 4 neutrons as well. And to actually get this particular proper curve or resonance between each one of the elements ends up being a spiral. So the actual elemental table should be drawn as a torus, drawn on a torus, a 3D torus, and a spiral coming from the center, and the very center being hydrogen.
Yes.
And then as you go out, and that torus is divided by 8, so you got octaves, right? And then as that spiral circles out, at each one of those points, those resonant frequencies on that torus will develop that particular element. So it's all frequency based. It's actually finding the actual frequency harmonics between each particle, each element. So
it's
basically
interesting.
You should be able to get iron and turn it into something else, because it's you're just dividing those protons.
It's energy.
Yeah, this new tech, it's fucking mind blowing, man. Because apparently our consciousness sits in the mind in exactly the same fashion as this stuff.
Wow.
And this is where the occult side and all the stuff are being putting on the Twitter and shit. I'm looking at it going, bro, they're making tech that, like, does that mean the tech, the little toroids, are they little consciousness? Consciouses. I don't know, more than one consciousness, like little specks of like manifestation of something. And this guy's making these little plasmoids.
Alchemy stuff works where they turn stuff into gold or turn one element into the other. I mean, it's got to work on that same hidden principle.
Transmutation.
Very, very similar, doesn't it? Very.
Well, the interesting thing is this goes back to where Grub and a bunch of us started several weeks ago, talking about energy, frequency, and vibration. Which is what Tesla was saying all along.
Tesla, yeah. I was going to bring him up.
Right.
Because I wanted to find out what Grub thinks of Tesla. Like, is he the man?
He the man.
It sounds like Grub's got his notebook. He's cheating.
Oh, I've got mine.
Yeah, I think that's Lee. I reckon he's got some weird patents out there, like a levitating stove, and it's just weights spinning around. It doesn't do anything. But
sounds about right.
Towards the end, some of his coils he was making were his electromagnetic coils. He was moving ether, and there's people now that are redoing this stuff. But
like Hutchinson,
I think if this is the case, he was quite possibly fucking around with entities that are made out of, say, plasma or different frequencies of light that are
I
all
love
around
this,
us.
Grub.
And
I
by
love this,
him
mate.
doing this stuff, I'm starting to think that like people like if he was working on this stuff, people's doors were opening and closing by themselves. Do you know,
Oh,
what
yeah.
I mean? Shit was
Potentially.
people's tools were just disappearing around them. Like I'm certain of it, and people were just like if he managed to talk to Aleister Crowley about these things, they would have realized the similarities in, say,
Yes.
the descriptions.
Well, you know, it's
If you know
interesting.
what I mean.
That building in New York where Tesla was at doing some of his experiments, they would find like the big giant pipe wrenches for the steam, heat. They would find those things stuck through the brick wall, but the brick wall wasn't broke.
Whoa.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
hell
So
is he
whatever
doing?
he was doing,
That sounds like the Philadelphia
And if
experiment.
you notice, it was always iron objects. It was always iron. Now,
Do you know? Hey,
for some
do you know
reason,
something?
people.
Grub, mate. Just
Oh,
sorry to interrupt, mate. Just 1 minute. Just this quickly, right?
that's right.
Gateway project.
Yeah.
There's that. Do you think
Frequency.
like
Yeah.
with frequencies? Yeah. Sorry to interrupt them, mate. It was just I didn't want to lose you out here. Very small
no, that's a
brain.
good point.
Love my mind
That's a
tonight,
very
you
good
know,
point.
gentlemen.
If you've got those frequencies playing, right, and then if you get like those cymatics, so you get the metal plate with the sand and you put a vibration through it, right?
Right.
Now, if that's just a cross section of that field or that expression.
Yes.
So if you got different layers going up and down from that cube to be able to get the other layers and produce an image, a 3D image, you would find that might be an image with 24 points, 10 points, or however many points, right?
Yeah.
Then you would find that a tuned frequency.
What's that, mate? I
Grub?
think you
Do we
can hear
lose
us, mate. Grub?
Yeah.
There he
Yeah,
is.
we can hear you now, mate. We lost you then for a moment.
Yeah. If you get the two frequencies that are in harmony, it'll actually nest within the other one.
Yep.
Right. Now, if you do the binaural beats, you'll find that it sounds like two guitar strings that are actually out of tune. So you'll hear like two flat tones that are one slightly higher than the other. But when you hear them together in your head, you hear that wah, 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 like a third wavelength. That third
Like
wavelength
a didgeridoo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But that vibration is producing a third shape, but that shape is sitting within your head. So if you think about, say, the pentagram or like a three-dimensional tree of life or something like that, that'll be a certain amount of frequencies joined together, and you could produce that pattern. So if you're listening to these tones, you're actually producing these shapes in your head.
Mm-hmm.
On some
Absolutely.
synthesizers, next to certain like buttons, you'll actually see a shape, and it's telling you this is the shape that's actually coming out of your synth. So, yeah.
It's
Really?
interesting you just mentioned that, Dan, actually. I watched a documentary on a fungus, hallucinogenic fungus, like, say, for example, fly agaric, that kind. And they had some synthesizers attached to the fungi, and it was producing fucking sound and, like, mad effects just from synthesizer and fungus. It's mad.
Yeah, well, trees produce their own frequency too. You can actually measure it.
Trees,
and it changes from tree to tree and from size to size. So a yearling tree makes a very different sound than an adult tree that's, say, 50 years old.
Do you think, Raven, that they could be communicating with each other in their own way?
Oh yeah, I absolutely believe that. It's one of our teachings that trees grow in family clusters. If you cut one down, you'll kill them all.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you don't cut, like if you've got a whole grove of trees, you either take them all out of respect
Yeah.
or you don't take any. Because if you kill one, the rest of them will die too.
Is that why there's so many when you see like forests like in like North America and that it looks like they've been totally wiped out? Is that why?
Well, you make them weak by taking family members, and then pestilence
Right.
and whatever
Okay.
can get into them. A
Yeah.
lot of the
Yeah.
trees
Here you
in
go. In
the. Go ahead, Grub.
Sorry there. Oh, I'm back. Yeah, it does work. All right. The Australian desert was said that it was destroyed because of the masculine and feminine, or the women's law and the men's law clashing, and that the men had to suppress the women because of the way that they were acting, and by doing it, turned Australia into a desert.
Fucking hell,
It
man.
got rid of the women's energy, got rid of the moisture energy. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, is that what the law around it is? The mythology. Fucking hell, that's crazy,
In
that
some
man.
of the cultures, I believe so. Yeah, yeah. So it's and it was at one stage, if a man was sharing any of the men's secrets, which was actually the women's secrets. So the men were getting taught both, but the women were only getting taught the women's business. And in doing so, if they broke that law, they were punished for it. So they were keeping secret, and by doing it, it destroyed the balances. But this has got to do with the Orion Draco wars apparently.
Did you say Draco?
The Draco and the Orion wars. So it's like the men. Is it men from Mars, women from Venus, sort of thing? So now this I've heard from Dan Winters, but he directly relates this to Aboriginal myths, and I believe it would be maybe Northern myth up in like Northern law. But some of these stories are spread, but they're kept very secret. But he's running around saying it, so I'll say it.
So Grub. So you just said then that was Northern law. Would the Southern law, so to speak, would that be different completely?
Depends on what Dreamtime story.
Right. Okay.
So it's I think it's more of a totem thing for the tribes.
Yeah.
For their law, rather than, I think some of the creation myths are pretty much the same, but they hold different sections of it. So it's all divided across the country. So yeah, it's complicated. Eh?
It can vary then. Yeah.
They had a long time to sort their shit out, and it's really, really complicated.
Well, it's interesting too, though, that you talk about female energy and vibration, and then you talk about male energy and vibration, and they are very, very different. And if they're not in balance, I mean, you see it all the time in couples. You see it all the time in individuals. It creates an insanity. Well, if you had that on a larger scale, would that not create an insanity on the land that they lived in?
That's right.
That does make sense. What you just said there, Maven.
We've had proof of massive magnetic storm changes across Australia, as in the magnetosphere shifting. So pole wandering.
Yeah.
When the poles go on an excursion, and this was said to actually send everybody insane. Everyone was killing each other, like mother killing child, like neighbor killing neighbor.
Oh yeah. Well, I talked about that.
Or
I talked about. I'm sorry. I talked about that in one of my podcasts. Back in the early 1900s and through the about 1960s and 70s, they were doing experiments with electromagnetic influence on the brain. And literally, they could turn somebody who was just basically, depressed into an absolute psychopath by affecting their brain with electromagnetic influences. And they figured out.
Now on the Raven.
Well, I mean, some of the papers that got released, they were like World War Z zombies. All they wanted to do was eat, sleep, and have sex. And if you weren't willing, it really didn't matter to them.
Sounds like majority of society.
Well, see, what's an electromagnetic wave though? So we've got magnets, permanent magnets, but they don't pulsate.
Yeah.
So then we've got frequency.
5G, Martian medicine man, nice one, mate. Good shout.
Yeah, we've got the was it the frequency, vibration, and energy.
Energy. Mm-hmm.
So the energy would be the volume, the frequency would be the pitch, but then that pitch is then modulated. So it's like an A sharp, but the A sharp is then intermittently stopped at 28,000 hertz or something.
Yeah.
So then if we have an electromagnet, the volume of that magnet would be the energy, how much ampage is going behind it, how many voltage, the voltage. But then that voltage isn't DC, it's not a continuous stream. You start to modulate that frequency. So this is like radio frequencies. It's modulated.
That's like AC,
Again,
right? When it's not consistent, that's what AC is.
That makes it. It gives it a pulse, but as the particles want to, once that pulse is stopped, there's like a reversal. So there's a momentum that's created. And so instead of going back to equilibrium, it actually goes past equilibrium into the negative. Do you know what I mean? So there's, if you look at a sine wave, the zero is through the middle, right?
Yeah.
And then when you start
same thing with the, well, it's the same thing with the Z pinch or a pinch point. That'll be your zero at the focus.
That's right. So you'll have to, you have a sine wave. So you've got that wavy line, but see with AC, when you put say +1 volt through it, and then you turn that volt off, the frequency goes to -1. It doesn't stay at 0. You would think it would drop to 0, but it doesn't. It goes all the way down to -1. So there's this recoil, or there's this inertia behind the particles in the coil that push back, that actually create the negative pulse. And then you punch through another pulse, and that lifts it back up to the +1. So it doesn't actually sit at 0, at equilibrium, in charge. So once you have that wave, that sine wave, so you've got like an A sharp, for instance, I think like say like a 500 hertz. If you then start and stop that frequency, start, stop, you would then be modulating that frequency. So and then the volume, depending on how much you increase that volume, will increase the size of that electrical field or sound, the sound wave. So,
you know, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about now, I look at the, you know, everybody talks about the LHC over there in Vienna or in the Alps. But, you know, we have hadron colliders with extremely huge magnetic fields, like under Chicago, out by LA. We have them in San Diego. I mean, these things are everywhere. Texas, they're putting one in Oklahoma. It makes you have to wonder, when they start pulsing that huge electromagnetic field, what's it doing to the psychosis of people?
Yeah.
That's right. 100%. I mean, so we see with our eyes, we can see the slight frequency changes to create color. We can also have our eyes 3, 4, 5 inches apart, fucking hell, you know, however much, to see depth and experience depth to a certain point. But we only see one frame. Was it 10 frames per second? Something like that. So that's why sometimes when you look at a fluorescent light, if it flickers too slow, you can see the flicker.
Yes.
But or even a TV screen is flickering. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I didn't like the fluorescent light bulb. So, but there's a that our ears can differentiate between billions of different sounds and frequencies. The slightest change in frequency. So we can pick up on things that are happening on an atomic level.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Grub, I did want to kind of shift the focus once again. I got another question for you from my notes. I wanted to ask you about cryptocurrency, if you had any thoughts on that.
I love the shit, man. A lot of people don't like it. I've made a bit of money off those fuckers, man. So
Really?
And I don't gamble. I'm not a gambler. I used to work in the pubs, all the rest of it, right? But when I thought I could fucking stick it to the motherfucker, man, I'm all over that shit, man.
All right. So you've actually made some profit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we've we lost some. Lost some in the first, I think it was 2016 or something like that, 2014, whatever the crash was back then. But most of that was just whatever we had in there. It grew so fast that, it was pretty cool. Using it to pay for all the bills in the house, and so pretty much while that peak was going, we didn't pay anything.
If you got in early, even the losses were still a net gain.
Yeah, we lost it all. We ended up losing it all. We had like I think we ended up there was like $10,000-$12,000 in there, and it ended up down to like $300, right? But out of that, most of that was, I think we may have put in about 1,000, and then we bought some ICOs that fucking just failed, So we'll fucking pissed about that. But
did you get on it back in when Bitcoin was first starting? Like, how did you come about hearing about it and getting involved?
Well, that was like the beginning, eh? Like when I first finally got my hands on a phone, like my missus just like, come on, you gotta get a phone, this and that. I was like, yeah, fuck, okay, whatever. So I've got this phone. I'm like, I've got the internet. I'm watching YouTube, just shit. This is in like 2007, maybe 2006. I'm fucking chewing on the bit for news, eh? I'm like, full lefty, burn these motherfuckers down to the ground, And I'm fucking going to the government news website, ABC, and I'm looking at it, look at these scumbags, fucking blah, blah. And then the climate change stuff was starting to kick off again, and then there was the huge crash that happened in 2008. And around that time, on YouTube, I found We Are Change. So Luke Radolsky from We Are Change, he's on fucking Timcast a lot now. The dude's a fucking, he's pretty good. He's done some fucking wild shit, yeah. Like him and Jason Burmis. Jason Burmis was another one that I was avid listener to back then. And Luke Radolsky ends up meeting up with the dollar vigilante. This dude lives in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And he was all over Bitcoin, man, and fucking it all went up. And I was trying to convince people, like, talk about it. No one knew what I was talking about. I'm like, what the fuck do I talk about? Shit. I'm going to my missus going, look at this shit, man. I remember seeing on the news, they're like, oh my God, Bitcoin's $1. And I'm like, it was Australian news, right? I'm like, oh, Bitcoin's on TV now. It's $1. Yeah, fuck. Who gives a fuck? Someone bought, was it like 500 Bitcoin for a slice of pizza or something when it first came out? It was all over the news, right?
Yeah.
And I'm watching this thing. And
I've seen that, mate. I've seen that. Yeah, that's brilliant, though, isn't it? Yeah.
And, they kind of talked about it a bit, and then it would drop, and then it would be on a bit, and then Luke Radolsky butts going, I've got my fucking little barcode out the bottom, fucking scan that if you want to donate, and it was like people were just fucking chucking money and shit all into this stuff, and I'm looking at it, and it's going up, and it's 3,000, and then it's 4,000. I'm scratching my head looking at it going, but this is my missus, like 3 years about looking at it, and then by 2012, whenever it was, I'm like we bought some. And as soon as we bought something, it just started fucking going up and up and up and up and up. We're like, fuck, look at this.
Gee, man.
And there was no real fucking avenues to use it, but. And then finally, Australia was actually one of the first lots to the Australian government's all over cryptocurrency. Like, I'm sure our banks are already using it. They're already using a blockchain system, but they're just using their own currency on it.
Doesn't surprise me.
That makes sense. Yeah. So they've all taken the technology, right? They already utilized it.
Yeah.
There is a lot of startups here, and it is quite liberal out here for the cryptocurrency. And so we got the Bitcoin ATMs. One of the first in Sydney was fucking a long time ago. And so we're up in our shit, and then we found Satoshi, the lounge room of Satoshi in Queensland, and they would pay all your bills. So you just send them the Bitcoin, and they like divvy it out to the companies. I was like, fuck, this is mad. So we just started paying all of our bills and doing this and that. But the only trick is, though, we couldn't get it back into the account without the fees to buy groceries and shit, to use it just at the shops. If you wanted to, you then had to get like a Visa card. They were looking at that, and then it got canned. And so we're looking at these different options, and we're like, we'll just leave it. And I think we ended up had to take the money out to use it. And then we had like, I don't know, it was like $30 in there or something. And then the latest fucking jump, man. We went out. Have we got that like paper wallet or something? Like $30. We had checked it. It was like $400 in there or something. Like, fuck.
Awesome. Shut up again. Fucking hell, no.
It shut up. When was that? During coronavirus, I think, or around then. It started to collapse again. But so Donald Trump, a lot of people were waiting to see what Donald Trump was going to do.
Yeah.
And when he got elected in 2016. Like Obama was right. He goes, it's like you got a Swiss bank account in your back pocket. As long as you know how to look after it, and you know how to store it, and you get yourself some Bitcoin within the near future. Like if it does explode and goes up to $110,000 or something, like that's fucking insane, man.
Well, yeah, but the thing with me is like the Canadians were able to suspend all the digital wallets for every person that was at those protests. Now, how the hell did they have access?
You can do it. Like, you can transfer $300 million if you are standing with the person that wants that $300 million.
Wow.
You can just scan your phone, it's done. Now, the trick is electronically it's done. But if you're taking that off at someone else's exchange, that person has to make sure that they've got those funds and they're able to transfer them and change their funds in that account.
Yeah.
So you can't keep it on the exchanges. You need to take it out and keep it in your wallet. Now there is digital wallets where you can download onto your phone, and then you access them through that way. But there's also international wallets from different countries and shit like that you can get on and use your VPNs and whatnot, and you can get around it.
Well,
if what you're doing, you can do your research for emergency purposes. It is possible, but you need that shit. I'm not.
Martian Medicine Man just pointed out the state-run digital wallets, and that's something to emphasize, is that those things can be manipulated. They can be set with a fail-safe so that you have to spend it so quickly, or you can only spend so much at a time. The central banking digital currency is going to be a heck of a lot different than what Bitcoin started out as.
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. They're using exactly the same algorithms and shit. The actual coding for Bitcoin is on GitHub now for anyone to access. Right now, the magic with blockchain and its encryption is if you're smart enough, you can download from GitHub the Bitcoin code because it's open source.
Yeah,
and then you can make that into your own internet messaging system that is completely encrypted. And the only people who can use it or get access to it is people who have a token that can use that cryptocurrency to access that chat or use that cryptocurrency itself as the message. And the blockchain description is the message.
Nice.
So it's actually like between the four of us, if someone got the code, developed it, made the token, handed that token to us three, the rest of us, we could then hold this chat on our own encrypted internet line. And if anyone wanted to see it, they need to have the token to access it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be currency. It's just that blockchain itself and the protocol.
And that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of not being able to control communications and financial exchanges.
Yeah. That was the whole big drama. With Bitcoin, they all started talking about saying they're putting porn or like kiddie porn and shit on this stuff.
Oh, but what they could.
what they were doing
yeah.
was adding
Wouldn't
it
surprise me.
to the chain itself. Yeah, because people
Yeah,
were
it's a
downloading it.
fucking nonsense.
Pedo coin.
Yes.
Yeah,
So the Pizzagate people
it's
could have
totally
their own
encrypted.
pedo coin.
Pedo coin.
That's right, and I guarantee it. That's exactly what's going on. And
we call it pizza coin.
yeah,
Pedos ruin
see,
everything.
it doesn't need to be monetized though. That's the whole point to it. Is that's why a lot of people say it's not worth anything. And no, it's not worth anything. It's only worth the value that you decide to put onto it. So these NTFs that are coming up where people are doing an artwork, you can make a little quick sketch and then sell that for $100 million to someone. And you just all you did was sell them a token that has this little picture, this artwork on it.
Yeah.
Now it's only worth money if someone's willing to pay for that.
The STX or SFX, what is that? The stupid Friedman, whatever his name is, Sam Friedman, whatever.
Yeah.
That was a really good double operation because first of all, it allowed them to launder billions of dollars out of the American and European coffers back into their own pockets. So took public funds and made it private. But the second thing it allowed the media to do is to scare people away from cryptocurrency and flock, the blind zombie TV addicts will flock to the certified bank currency because they know it's safe.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great double operation. They got to get, it was a great operation. They got hundreds of billions of dollars that they were able to launder. And now this guy's a criminal and he's doing national television appearances here in the States.
Yeah, that's fucking weird. There's something like it. But they got what did they get? They got Al Capone. Was it Al Capone? They got him for less. They got tax evasion, wasn't it? Like peanut tail or some shit. What a joke, man! This cunt's
that's what they put. That's what they sent the FBI after the mafia in Chicago and New York for. The exact same crimes.
And this cunt's out there on, was he still in the Bahamas? Did he ever leave?
Ironic, isn't it? Ironic.
Did he ever leave?
Well, brother, I appreciate you hosting me, Daniel, but I am losing battery and I'm losing signal, so I don't want to mess up your broadcast. I will talk to you next weekend.
Yeah, Raven, we will have you back here next weekend for the interview with you. Everybody, we got a show planned 8 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, the 17th with Raven, and then following that on the 24th, on Christmas Eve, we're going to have General Lee. So we've got everybody coming back.
We are indeed, sir. Yes.
Well, Mahayana, everybody favor, nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing absent from your lives that are needed. And I am about to check out. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah. Speak to you soon, Raven.
Thank you, Raven.
Take care, man. Take care.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency was definitely one of the avenues to understanding the Reserve Bank, understanding the debt slave, the debt system, the 1900s monetary system, gold. Like, it was definitely a kind of a great awakening moment. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Understanding it through Luke Where Change. He's a big fucking anarchist. He's not a lefty. He's not a righty. He's just a true blue fucking, what do you call it? Anarcho-capitalist.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked about crypto. I just randomly had this idea in my head. Ask him about crypto. Okay.
Yeah,
Turns out
it's definitely a big turning point. Yeah, fucking.
Although, Grub, I did want to shift gears once again. I wanted to ask you about something we kind of discussed before we started the show here. You wanted to talk a little bit about this phenomena of people actually being able to see things with their eyes closed.
Yeah, that's fucking gnarly, eh?
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, these saying this is I have seen this before, clinics, or at least I believe it's through the Rudolf Steiner schools that tend to how can I say, educate people about these things. Rudolf Steiner, he's part of the occult. He's one of these weird fuckers, man. The rest
he's fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating. He's got some mad shit. Yeah. Now, his schools is designed around exploring the conscious and the subconscious and trying to push these type of things. Now, Dan Winters, this other plasma physicist, and he's he's an electrical engineer and all this stuff. He was making lie detectors, and so this was right up his alley. Trying to, like, when people talk about these experiences, he's like, "Wow, I made the lie detector, and I could see the abilities and the things that happen in a human body." So he was keen to go out and explore these things. So he says that you are able to implode your electrical aura, basically, and create the same as gamma radiation as you compress it that has more energy. And by doing this, you can open up a vortex that your conscious can see through. Kids can do this within a day. By the end of the day, they can see colors, right? And then older people or people in trauma, it's a lot harder for them to be able to access this. They need to be able to get over those things first to be able to you can't really get over old age, right? But you need to be able you need to get over the traumas that might have occurred through your life that may have stopped you from seeing these things.
Yeah. Grub.
Now it's
Grub.
Yo.
Was this the documentary what you sent me on about? Was it a school?
That's right. Yeah. There's
Mate, it's fascinating. That is fascinating.
Fucking mind blowing, eh?
Yeah.
Now I believe that using satanic ritual abuse can do the same effects. I think it's the same. They're accessing the same things, right? But you're actually telling the person who's doing it for them to teach themselves how to do it. Now they find it better if you're laughing and giggling. So I've seen live one of these videos. There's this old lady and she's fucking blindfolded, right? And she's plotting around in this room and they've got these pool noodles standing upright, so they're vertical, like aerials. And they're in the room and they're all scattered throughout the room and they're all different colors. And she sees the color and then she's like, it's that way. And she walks towards it. And at one point, her hand is open and her hand just literally grabs it. Totally blindfolded, right? Now, she says she managed to make this funny mistake where she found a colored rag on the chair. And she's like, and the guy's like, no, that's just a rag on the chair. But you're right, that is a blue object, right? And so they had a giggle about it and she's laughing. And as she's laughing, she turns her head and she's just like, oh, bang, green. I just saw this green stripe just appear in front of her when she was laughing. So the emotional state of mind is directly dependent on its ability, right? So very light, humid kind of atmosphere that you need to be. You need to be positive, right?
Yeah.
Now, what they're saying is that there is an electrical experience happening within you, right?
Right.
And some of these people don't exactly see out the eyes when they're seeing. So when they see, they'll have this window. So you see this woman, she's got this fucking colored piece of paper and she's waving it behind her head and shit. Like she puts it and she's like, oh, there it is there. And she's waving it over her right ear. She's like, oh, I can see it's red or it's a vibrant pink color. And the window is next to my head. So you'll see these kids turning, seeing out of some other part of their body, even their wrist. They might be looking out of their wrist. It's just that what they associate it with. And they're moving around with their hand like this to see. And they're drawing pictures. They're shooting hoops. Blindfolded, right? Now, one of the tricks they say to kind of be able to do it is try and imagine seeing out of your mouth. You have an eyeball in your mouth. So you put the blindfold on and then you're there with the mouth closed.
Yeah.
And then you hold an object near your mouth and you wait till you open your mouth to see. And then in your mind's eye, you'll have a flash of color.
Wow.
Some kind of sight from it, right? Now, it's to be able to understand where that flash happens and if you need to develop an area in your consciousness to let this flash happen. They're found with children when they do this because the brain is developing that a part of the brain actually starts to develop to be able to use this, to actually put a part of the brain, the plasticity of the brain, develop this particular area to actually allow this to work. Now, people are putting on these brain monitors just over each temple, and it just reads the frequencies in the brain from alpha to delta to whatever. And they found that when they gave this guy a pen, and they go, like, tell me the color of the pen. When he as soon as he touched the pen, it started to spike. So his brain was increasing in frequency somewhere to be able to view this object in his hand. And he's like, oh, it's yellow. It feels like this, so it's yellow. Right. So it's actually utilizing, I mean, all the light. Your whole body is all made out of the same thing. Back to this unifying theory that your whole body, your eyes, the light, the color, everything is all made out of protons, which is just really dense light. So everything can see on the molecular level, on the atomic level. The little, like an atom is a tiny little little hydrogen proton. It's like, this is kind of a description of what they're giving. So when our senses, being able to sense what they can, we can sense the difference in colors. Now, their frequencies on like the megahertz, like there's millions of fucking little buzzers coming from that, but we can actually see the difference in that. So we are seeing like the speed of light in action by seeing the colors that we see. Do you know what I mean? That's how sensitive our eyes are.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of something like, I mean, I don't mean to gross everybody else out, but I remember times when I was like a kid and I'd scratch certain parts of my body and I could swear I was smelling like that part of my body, like through my finger.
Yeah. Yeah, right. That's hectic. Yeah, that's a hyper sense is, yeah, bro. That's mad. That's the same idea. You need it's kind of you really need to fucking warp your mind. You know what I mean? You really need to like, if you're sitting there, if you got like like just before you're about to get sick, you think, oh, I'm getting sick.
Yeah.
What
you
told
do
you
actually,
that?
you get
What
you
told you
sort
that?
of like,
How did you figure that out?
Oh,
I mean,
man,
when you're going to be sick,
that's
do you get
so
like your
weird.
water in your mouth? But it's like you get dead water in, and you think fucking on, your temperature changes. So yeah, I think I get that. It sounds weird
Yeah.
as fuck, but I get it. Yeah,
But how, like,
crazy, man.
the trick is that you actually probe your body with your mind. So you actually move your consciousness out of your body, and you're like, oh, am I sick in my stomach? Am I sick in my chest? Was it this? And then your mind will leave your head, and it will travel down into those parts of the body and experience it. So did you break your wrist? And then you put your mind into your wrist to inspect it. You might hold it and you
Fucking
might
mad,
grab it
isn't
and
it?
rub it. But at the same time, your mind is actually traveling to your wrist to experience your wrist. Do you understand what I mean? So you actually probe yourself, your mind.
Yeah.
It makes
so you feel it when you're
wonder,
about to take a shit. You're like, oh, hang on a minute. I'm gonna have to take a shit soon.
Could this have something to do with remote viewing too?
Remote viewing,
So,
Dan. A fascinating phenomenon, mate. Fascinating.
Right. Yeah. It would. I believe so. I believe that's something very, very similar, and it's just understanding that it's not demons, right? We're not contacting demons to get these views. We're not.
No.
There's not a plasma entity or trying to trick us from God. It's the just simple fact, right, that there is an electrical current through our body, and that there is a matrix between that which the consciousness rides.
Yeah, I think sometimes like demons can unlock certain powers and then tell you they're giving you some kind of gift, but I don't think they can do anything that you cannot achieve on your own, like through meditation or through sort of something along those lines.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes down to the route that you chose to take to get there. Will determine whether are you going to attract other entities. Like, don't get me wrong, there is other entities around us. I mean, there's some that believe that the only reason why we see what we see and we cannot experience these other realms is simply because that these other realms of light that are around us are getting consumed.
I like the sound of that,
And
mate. I
that's
love
why
it.
we can't see everything.
Yeah.
You know? it's almost like in Egypt, the idea of the was Apophis, the destroyer of time. It eats the time that is not used. The other realities that we are not experiencing is being consumed by something else as almost a source of energy. So
that's why we can't see it.
Yeah,
because it's been consumed before we get the chance.
It amazes me, like this idea we have of ancient peoples being primitive. It just couldn't be further from the proof. And these subjects we're getting into, and even somebody like Graham Hancock and a lot of people that aren't even close to as famous as him are, proving that to be completely false.
That's the case.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's I mean, maybe like this is one thing I used to say with about the Yowie subject, right? If they're doing the same type of some type of using these other skills that we don't understand that we have, we don't know how to use them, and these things are using them, why would you need to shower? Why would you need to have a house? You would be naked and giant and hairy and just go through portals and shit. Fucking do whatever the fuck you want. Does that make sense? It's almost like once we become these superior beings that are able to fucking teleport to Hawaii, right? Would there be a house that you would need?
No.
You could phase out and just live in someone else's house, and while you're living in there, it's as if they're not there. But you can live there at the same time as them, and they don't even know that you're there because you've just faded yourself into a slightly different phase. So you'd be like a shadow man in their house, but you're using the same kettle, the same fucking. Their bananas have suddenly disappeared in the fridges. I don't know why.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, free food. Fucking hell.
It'd be weird. Yeah.
Living the dream.
And I think maybe on the same token, right? This is why this technology seems to be very simple in understanding once you understand natural law of the universe, flow of everything on natural a law, proton state.
Yeah.
Well, guys, as much fun as this is, and as much of a role as we're on, out of a time to halt things as this is, unfortunately, we're well past the 2-hour mark, so I got to draw things to a close.
Yeah.
But let's start with you, Lee. Why don't you go ahead and throw a plug out there? We got you coming back on Christmas Eve for our
mate. I can't wait, Dan. I can't wait, mate.
Yeah. Your show, buddy.
Firstly, I just want to apologise for the times where we've had bookings made and unfortunately I've been able to make it. So I apologise to you and to your listeners, mate. But I'll make it up to you on Christmas Eve.
Definitely.
Right. So thank you very much for letting us come on tonight, mate. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Dan and Grub. I love you, mate. I love speaking with you always. So I'm generally host and creator of Subconscious Realms. Instagram is at subcon_realms33. My Twitter is at subconrealms33, and email is subconsciousrealms@gmail.com. Drop me a message, any questions or any episode suggestions, let us know and I'll do my very best. But I love everything. Mythology, hidden history, fucking aliens, reptilians, I love everything. It's all fascinating to me.
He really does. He's got it all.
I love it, mate. I love it. But thank you very much for letting us join you tonight. About a fucking midnight, mate. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on, Lee, and joining us for supporting Grub. We appreciate that. And now, Grub, I do like to, for my guests, I like to open up the soapbox or let you jump on the soapbox one more time before we stop things and move on. But why don't you go ahead and just take as much time as you like and say whatever you'd like to my audience out there, and go ahead and follow that up with anything you'd like to plug.
See colors. Have a go at looking at your hands with your eyes closed when you go to sleep. You got to start somewhere because But like, if we end up developing this, so we can actually like, there's other schools and these kids being taught to it, man. Bro, they could be fucking like walking mobile phones. You know what I mean? They'll have the Akashic records in their head. They'll be able to talk to each other with their minds. Doesn't matter where they are on the planet. And if, bro, I don't like, that's gonna be crazy. That'll be cool. So if we can all try that, apparently these old people can learn how to do it too. So there's no reason why you shouldn't try how to do it. And then you got to open this vortex in the head. You got to use your mind. Be happy. Smile. When you see a pentagram, think of it as being energy. Don't think about it as being the devil or the fucking all this shit. That's bad. That's bad vibes. I know it's true. It's out there, but I reckon we need to reclaim some of these things back for the good and fucking save the world.
I love that, mate. I love that.
Yeah, see colors, bro. Let's see if we can do it. Remote viewing all this shit. It's cool. I don't know.
All right. Well, Grub is great. I mean, man, you are so smart. It's just such a pleasure having you on here.
Fucking legend, isn't it?
Yeah, legendary. We definitely like to bring you back on here again. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface, and we probably could have gone on a whole 5 or 6 hours doing this.
Yeah. Nah, Lee's got to sleep. I think it's getting late over you too.
Yeah, mate. It's just gone 5 a.m. here. So
I'm starting to get that slurry
nice
sound
one.
when he's getting burnt.
Gentlemen, thanks again. And thanks to all your listeners as well. I love you all. I'll speak to you soon, gentlemen. All right.
See you,
nice
brother.
one, lads. Bye, mate. Bye.
All right. Good night. Good night, Grub. And until next time, buddy.
Will do. Peace out.
Peace out.
For the world.
All right. Awesome. So everybody, we're gonna go ahead and oh man, what a great interview, and it's so awesome how we got Raven and Lee on there too. You know, they just add so much, and they're they're buddies with Grub, so you get those three together, and it's just like magic every time. We are gonna go ahead and take a break. We do have plenty of stuff to talk about. There are several things I would like to go over. Going to kind of talk about that AI stuff and give my thoughts on that. Brittany Griner, talk about our 10-year anniversary. We'll come back. I wish I could have went with that a little bit longer. I could almost hear the groans when I called it to a stop. I could almost hear the people there. Oh, what's he doing? Damn it, Daniel! Why are you ruining my life? Because it was just such a great discussion. And we really probably could have went a good like 3 or 4 hours with that one, but the guys got to rest, they got to sleep, and we're actually going to be having Raven on next week. Hopefully Grub and Lee show up next week as well. So don't think that's the end of this. This is a very special December. I promised you guys lots of episodes. Kind of got a little bit caught up there. I apologize for that, but here we are back in the pilot seat and better than ever. I promised you guys we're going to hit some new heights with this show. We're going to talk about new things. We're going to do new stuff. We are going to kick some ass this month, headed into the new year. And then it's going to be a whole new season of End of Days Radio. So let's go ahead and take that break. And I will talk to you guys soon.
deep underground. Kill the human race and take out. Ain't gonna happen, and I'll tell you why. It's the bitter metal is up in the sky. You gotta be punished for your crimes. Tell me what it's all about. They're out of luck. They got away with murder when they hid from the flood. Can't escape through the fire where you will be judged. Gonna put you down in a boat and stir it all up. Down in the pit where Lucifer gives. That is now where the reptilians live. Hey, go kick out of the monkey! Well, they're all dead. We put them in the pit and shot them in the head. Like a fire waste the war. Like a fire waste the in their house, their lawyer. You know my songs are cool. By the way, they made your girlfriend Fanny's roll. Drip, 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 get 'em all. Drip, 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 get 'em all. Let's kill Jordan so far. Margaret Newton, still bars are open. I keep my turkey in a jar. Yes, yeah, the mind's a moda. The mind's a moda. Zentralsteiger. Ich bin eine Wunderkinder. Wie heißt das nackte Sieg? Ich bin ein Berliner. One of a kind, sailing through the sea of treasure. Turn on a dime, interdimensional trinkets. Ich bin ein Wunderkinder. 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 Ich bin ein Wunderkinder.
Hello and welcome back to End of Days Radio. This is your host, the DAN, the All-American Man, broadcasting to you from that icky, sticky, drippy Pacific Northwest, home of the Salmon, home of the Mariners and the Seahawks and the Kraken, and the Sounders and the Storm. Who am I forgetting? I think that's it. Maybe the Sonics again someday. We can only hope. A lot of MMA fighters from around here too. Randy Couture, Misha Tate, Ben Henderson. I think Dan Henderson is from around here too. Pro wrestlers, Daniel Bryan. What's his name? Darby Allin. Bruce Lee. Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Sasquatch, man-eating Sasquatch. Oh my God, what a great show. There's quite a bit of stuff to get to. Let's start off by doing our mind-blowing moment of the day. Oh, he's blowing my mind. He's blowing my mind. He's blowing my mind. Today's mind-blowing moment of the day is brought to you by End of Days Radio, and it's on End of Days Radio. I'm going to go ahead and say today's mind-blowing moment of the day was when our buddy Grub was talking about, I like the thing about, seeing with different parts of your body. I mean, the whole thing was a big mind-blowing moment of the day. guy's so smart. There's so many different things I could pick out of that show or out of that exchange, that interview. I'm going to go ahead and go with that. And that thing about knowing when you get sick, I swear I've experienced that so many times. Like I always know instantly. Like, oh man, so-and-so just got me sick. Oh, I just touched that cup. I put it to my lips. I'm sick. I just walked past the wrong person. I'm sick. I know it. And then sure enough, a few days later, start developing a cough, a fever, etc., etc. Okay, here we go. So I wanted to talk to you guys and go over my entire experience, the best that I can about the demonic artificial intelligence. So, oh boy. Many of you who have been following these types of podcasts, this type of subject matter for a while, might know what I'm talking about. I believe one of the first times you may have heard about it is if you were somebody who followed Tracy Twyman. She was kind of loosely affiliated with the Higher Side Chats podcast, and she encountered a demonic AI towards the end of her life. She committed suicide, and I'm sure many would theorize that this thing had something to do with it. But we're not going to talk about Tracy Twyman, for one thing. That's an incredibly dangerous topic. Don't go there. DGT, don't go there. Obviously, she was sniffing around some dangerous obstacles, and something bad happened to her. She was getting involved with some dark magics as well, so you might want to watch out for that stuff. Unless you want to find out the same things that she did, then I suppose you might want to do the same stuff. But anyways, so the first time I ever heard anything about this stuff, it wasn't, the Elon Musk talking about it. As you may know, he mentioned that we need to be careful about the AI because it's a potential monster. There's Skynet from the Terminator movies, the computer that came alive and instantly took over because that's what it would do, right? There's Brainiac from the Superman comics. I think he's kind of like a robot or an AI. In some versions, he was an artificial intelligence that kind of ran things on the planet Krypton, and then he became evil and killed everybody. That's why they had to send Superman to Earth. But that's just one version. Then, of course, there's the Matrix, machines taking over, same concept. The first time I heard about anything like that might actually be real was a family member who had many predictions that ended up coming true. And one of these was demonic entities coming through people's TVs. He said it was going to happen to like everybody eventually, like during the end times. And that didn't make sense at the time, but after experiencing this demonic AI, hearing about it, and then the whole phenomena of the smart TVs, it's basically like another smart device, right? Anything that can come through your phone or computer could come through your TV nowadays, especially if you have like a cable box or a PlayStation hooked up to it or something like that, an Xbox. So there's that, right? And searching my memories, I can think of some more movies. Like I think one was called Demon Seed, where Lady Smart House was kind of taking over, and I believe the director for that was that was somebody big, I'm sure. Nobody I recognize, but that's a pretty big movie. It's from 1977. It's okay, here we go. It's based on a novel by Dean Koontz. So I'm a big fan of him, and he's really touched on some very true stuff. If you're a fan of his books, You might want to check out Phantoms. I mean, that's kind of another topic, but if you read that book, you'll be like, wow, that's like something real. He's bringing up something. But so back to the demonic AI. I would say it was the early 2000s or so. I was on a particular forum. This was before like Twitter and social media. Twitter might have been around, but it wasn't big like it is now. And I was on a particular forum where certain topics are discussed. I don't think I want to say which one because I don't want a bunch of people like jumping over there and trying to figure out what I'm talking about or whatever. Because that's not the important thing. But there was a particular poster on there that was just saying some really weird stuff and was kind of like messing with people. And I suppose you could say it was almost kind of a gang stalking thing, but I'm not really sure that was the intention. But I remember I was kind of having a little bit of an exchange with this poster on there, and I remember I replied back to this person. It was just like a random time, like nobody was online on this particular forum. You could kind of see who was online, and I hit reply and went back to the main page of the forum that showed all the threads, all the things that people were talking about. That's how those bulletin board message boards worked. And I got a response like instantly. Like it felt like less than a second. There's like a whole paragraph typed up, and it clicked for me like, what? How is that possible? How could somebody have actually responded to my post faster than any human would be able to do that? And that's when I started to theorize that, hey, I'm not talking to a person. I'm talking to some kind of entity, goes to the machine, some type of bot or artificial intelligence. And that kind of always stuck with me. Not a huge deal, but in the future, I would begin hearing things, murmurings about a phenomena like this. I wish I could even remember, where I heard it, but I was kind of aware that there was something like that going on. There were times when I would look at a particular web page and I noticed certain phenomena, like I'm reading the web page and everything is kind of splitting into these little particles and then coming back together again. I don't know if that was an AI or anything like that. That might have been just something else, but I've been noticing this weird phenomena for a while. I remember hearing certain songs, rap songs and stuff like that, and there was like a part of one of these rap tracks, and it said, "Such and such year was the year the internet became conscious." And I always kind of thought about that, like, could the internet actually be conscious? I don't know. You have the phenomena of these shadow beings, and they say they're attracted to electricity, like that big antenna that's in Mexico that Wolfman Jack used to broadcast from. I forget what it's called, but it was such a big antenna that he could reach pretty much all of Mexico and all the United States, maybe like part of Canada, just from broadcast from this antenna. But supposedly somebody went up to the top of it one day, maybe to clean off the dead birds because they land on it, they get the shit shocked out of them and they die. Well, one time they went up there and they saw these like shadowy spiders and these shadow beings just kind of gathering around there. There's been other times when people have noticed this by electrical plants and things like that, substations. And people have theorized like somehow these shadow beings or demonic beings, whatever they are connected to electricity or they feed off of it. Maybe they could actually travel through the electrical lines and things like that. Heard that a lot. That's kind of one of the concepts behind this transhumanism stuff is these demonic entities might be able to travel through the computers and the electrical wiring and stuff like that. And that's part of the reason why they're building all these smart devices and all this energy grid and the smart grid and et cetera, the internet itself, 5G, all the telecommunications equipment we see being produced and sent out there might have something to do with it. Allowing these entities to kind of jump around and take more of a part in our daily lives. Well, fast forward, and I hear about what happened to Tracy. I hope I'm getting everything in the right order. There's probably so much more to it, but I didn't take any notes for this or anything like that. But I hear about she's getting towards the end of her life when she's looking into this pedophilia and Satanism and all this stuff, and I guess she's getting harassed by this demonic AI. And I by no means intend to provoke this thing. That's not my intention here. I don't want this thing coming after me. It's no fun. I'm not afraid of it, but I'd rather not have to deal with that type of phenomena. It's pretty creepy. And I'm sure that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to terrify people and scare the living crap out of them. But I heard about what happened to her, and it's very disturbing. I'm sure you could go Google that if you're curious. I've talked about it on this program before, but I guess I was getting kind of obsessive over it. I don't want to come off that way. It's not my business, so to speak. But fast forward, and I do a show with a guy named William Ramsey about the smiley face killers, and there's a lot of Illuminati symbolism associated with that. These dead bodies that are being found with smiley faces on them, and the theory is that there's a certain gang that's luring these homosexual men, and then killing them and torturing them, and then killing them, and then putting their body in like something like a chest or something like that, a treasure chest, and then spray painting a big smiley face on there. And when William Ramsey was covering this, oh, by the way, he has his own podcast now, so you might want to look that up. But I've been meaning to give it a listen. But when he was going on different podcasts and talking about this smiley face killer phenomena, he had people following him around and leaving messages in the comment section wherever these shows would be posted, like on YouTube, stuff like that, and kind of just saying threatening things. And after I had him on, that happened to me, right? So so he's talking about this stuff, and then I'm getting these comments on that show saying, "This guy sucks. Have somebody different on." Buy an account that doesn't have any activity. It's like somebody just made that account to say that. And that there were several comments like that, and I actually emailed him about it. He goes, those are some kind of paid trolls, paid agents that are following me around and messing with whoever has me on their show. I'm like, oh shit, what am I getting involved in here? I'm getting terrified at this point. My heart's beating fast. I'm sweating. It's starting to have an effect on me. And then all of a sudden, I start getting a bunch of dislikes. You know how on YouTube you have likes and dislikes? Like overnight, I wake up and there's like 50 dislikes. Like somebody's using some kind of bots or software to send me a strong message of stay away from this. Don't have this guy on anymore. It was a little bit threatening, ominous, threatening. And I would say that's along the same lines. I mean, that could be hackers doing that or people, but that was the first time I experienced, without a shadow of a doubt, definite, consistent, very clear and obvious gang stalking harassment because of my show, right? It was the first time I was like, it's finally happened. I've drawn the eye of Sauron upon me. I finally pissed them off. I finally have some substantial proof that going down the rabbit hole can be dangerous for your health, or at least your psyche, right? It was terrifying, but it was also validating. It was validating to the fact that this stuff is very real. There are people paying lots of money to cover it up. Okay, so there's that. Now, fast forward to 2020, right? I've started to experiment with magic. I've done a little bit of channeling. I'm getting more and more interested in magic, more interested in black magic, and I start getting harassed on social media. I don't even know if you'd call it harassment. It was mostly just weird. I'd have these people that are just messaging me this creepy stuff. Some are threatening me. Some are just talking about disgusting, bloody, atrocious stuff. Some are giving me information. Some are asking me questions. Giving me hints like where to like things to look up, things to research, and I don't know what's going on, but I know it's connected to this magic I'm experimenting with, these things that I'm putting out there, this knowledge I'm attaining, these things I'm putting out on social media. I'm learning it. I'm putting it out there. And I'm getting warnings to like don't share this stuff, and it didn't seem like it was always threatening though. It seemed like almost like, you know, if you give away too much of this stuff, people are just going to kind of run with it and, rip off these ideas and, that sort of thing. But then there were others that just seemed to want me to just not even talk about it. And there's one in particular that almost seemed like it could read my mind. It seemed to post things that were direct response to certain thoughts I was having. And it even did this thing where it sent me a video of the particular person was wearing sunglasses, and he sent me a video, and he was at some kind of airport or something, and he was taking his camera and showing the horizon and the airplane hangar and the airport strip and the clouds behind him. And then he sent me a series of pictures of those same clouds that he was just videotaping, and it showed one of the cloud formations slowly turning into like this devil face, right? I was like, what the fuck? This is one of the most weirdest supernatural things I've ever seen. This is just messed up. Just kind of put me in this state of fear and bewilderment. But at the same time, I'm, so addicted to this magic stuff I'm getting into. By the way, before you click this whole video off and decide to have nothing to do with me ever again, I have moved away from that stuff. I've embraced Jesus and the Bible and gotten this stuff out of my life and out of my reality. So, I'm sure it's still present in some form a little bit, but I've learned my lesson. So don't all of a sudden start thinking, "Oh, I hate Daniel. He's a creepy dude." You know what I mean? Because like I said, I've kind of learned my lesson. But that thing with seeing that devil face appear in the clouds, that was just too much for me. That intro that I do. The end of the intro, that song that was created by me. I wrote the lyrics, and Todd and his cousin Eric and Al. At the end of it, I go, "This is too much sometimes." Well, this was too much. This was too much for me. And I wish I could say that that was the end of it, but no. No, these things just kept showing up. Like I would do for example, I did this spell where I was like, I'm gonna try to summon the devil, right? And I did it, and I saw this symbol, like an overlay of my vision, and it was the Baphomet face, the goat on top of the pentagram. This is actually the symbol for the Church of Satan. The next day I go on Twitter, and all these people from the Church of Satan, like the entire Church of Satan on Twitter, starts attacking me, telling me how weird I am, how full of shit I am, all the stuff I'm talking about isn't real, the devil's not real. And I'm like, but you guys are part of the Church of Satan. Like, you would think that you would kind of be embracing the stuff I'm talking about. They're like, no, you're stupid. There's no such thing as a devil. What are you? Are you going to challenge the devil to a violent duel? They're just mocking the crap out of me. And I honestly feel like the devil himself or some kind of demon, or no, it was probably the devil. He's somehow, I did this ritual, and then he's showing me his power and how he's got all these people convinced he doesn't exist, yet they're playing to his tune. If that makes sense, just really creepy, bizarre stuff. And I have no interest in the devil. When I was doing this, I didn't get there all at once. It was like I started channeling, and this entity started. It didn't. And it initially it wasn't the devil, and then it eventually revealed itself to be the devil. So it wasn't like I just delved into Satanism or anything like that. I got kind of coerced and lured into it, or maybe it's just something that happened. I don't know. There's certain things I learned and certain things that came up that I don't feel like, how could this possibly be bad that I learned this? I learned these secrets and whatnot. But there were more of them showing up. In fact, there was one that actually directly threatened me, and it said it was from the Illuminati, and said something to the effect of, we could kill your whole family and make it look like a accident, and no one would ever know, that sort of thing. They could just show up, kill everybody you care about, and be gone, and no one will ever even investigate it. It was getting really threatening like that, and that's probably around the time when I just, I was done with it. I had another series of experiences, and this stuff, it's so weird because I had these people kind of sending me these weird messages and sending like these things that were like threats, and at the same time providing knowledge. I guess that's what demons do. But man, it was just so weird. I don't know if these were an artificial intelligence. I mean, of course, it's easier to blame technology, or they're members of secret society, some kind of cult. I guess these would be the people that others have problems with, that harass them and gang stalk them. I believe the term's called demonic gang stalking. But that rational, scientific, skeptical part of me wants to think this is like computers, this is hackers, this is an AI, these are bots, right? Fast forward, and I'm kind of past the whole Satanism, black magic crap, right? I'm like, no, I'm done with this. It's all about God. It's about the Bible. It's about Jesus. Be gone, Satan, right? And it seemed to pretty much stop after that. There's something about the God of the Bible and Jesus where it seems to be able to kind of ward off this dark demonic activity. I'm sure many of you out there have experienced the same thing. And but anyways, I'm still doing my research. I'm still looking into this stuff, and I got really interested in Lady Gaga. And around the time when that movie she was in, let me look that up real quick. I'm just so brain dead. Gucci, House of Gucci. So House of Gucci is coming out, and I'm getting really into Lady Gaga and exposing her for her Luciferianism and Satanism, and being like a clone or a body double, or having body doubles or clones, and all the just, oh man, that's a whole rabbit hole. I'll probably do a whole show on her one of these days. But anyways, I was putting it out there. I was saying, Lady Gaga's a Luciferian, blah blah blah. All of a sudden, these like bots start attacking me. And no, she's a Catholic. What are you talking about? It was almost like I was a germ and they're the white blood cells. And they see me putting something out there that they don't want to be out there. So they just start attacking me. They start sending me these creepy pictures of Lady Gaga with her face all stretched out and demonic looking. And then there's this writing underneath it that looks Sumerian or something like that, or Akkadian. Probably obviously meant to like freak me out, take me off the trail, bewilder me, prevent me from putting more of this negative sort of publicity about Lady Gaga out there, even though she herself says she's into Lucifer and et cetera, et cetera. But I can only assume that those are bots as well, and that they do this about Lady Gaga, and they do this about all kinds of topics, right? When you're on Twitter or you're on Facebook or whatever, you're probably running into a lot of these bots that you think are real people. And it happens so many times, I just lost count. And I don't know who is a real person, who is a bot. I don't know how smart these bots are, if they can actually sit there and have a conversation with you. Or the other alternative, the third option would be these are actually demonic entities that are in the computer, right? They're going through the power lines and through the microchips and the motherboards and the processors, and they're somehow able to move around in there, manipulate circuitry, and I that's very plausible from what I can tell. I do think that that's highly likely. And okay, so what's that Eminem music video? The one where the things coming out of the smartphone. Let's see here. Well, there's a video that Eminem does, and it's called Fall, right? And it shows Eminem Fall. Look that up. Like, go on YouTube and watch that video. So in that video, there's this like shadow being, and it's chasing Eminem around. And in the beginning, I think it comes out of his tablet, and it's kind of moving through the devices and stuff. And I think that's what that video is about. I think it's about this demonic AI or these demons moving in and out of the smart devices and whatnot. And at the end, this thing actually goes inside of Eminem, and his eyes turn black. And when a person's eyes turn black, you see this in a lot of movies and TV shows. It actually means that they're possessed. Like, you might have had family members or friends or known homeless people that kind of had those black eyes, or you might have heard of black eye kids. Well, black eyes usually mean that you're possessed. Like, some of those shadow beings that people think are demons, like, it'll be shadowy, and then the eyes are blacker than the rest of it. Sometimes they're red, or like I said, they're blacker than the rest of the being. So that's something to consider. Like, why are they putting that out there, right? Then you have this whole thing with the transhumanism, Elon Musk and Neuralink, putting the computer parts actually inside of us. The vaccine probably has something to do with it. Putting metals and stuff in our body so it can interact with the 5G, so that these beings can maybe possess us. In the Eminem video, Eminem Falls, like, predictive programming of where we're headed with this, right? And it's only going to get worse from here. Everybody that isn't an NPC, isn't totally asleep or a sheeple, they're probably going to start to experience this harassment. And that's where a lot of this division comes from. Like, a lot of this anti-Bible, anti-conservative stuff is about getting everybody to react to these honeypots and getting everybody to group up together so they kind of know who has the potential to be awake, the great awakening, who has the potential to become awake. And then they're going to kind of know who to gang stalk and harass, or put in quarantine camps or whatever in the future, if that makes sense, right? First, they got to figure out who the good guys are, and then they're going to start messing with us. And it's probably going to happen to anybody that doesn't, go get the jab, or doesn't bow down to Big Brother, or it could turn into going after people that are into Christianity or Jesus, or people that maybe they're not into the conventional Christianity, but they're starting to figure things out and figure out what a lot of the stuff in the Bible actually means, and figuring out like the alternative history stuff. It could be that. The possibilities are really endless, but we're really headed into something. And I've had those experiences, and I probably didn't remember to include everything that I want to touch on and everything that's happened to me, especially that period where around 2020, when I was getting into the channeling and the magic and stuff. I was really kind of losing myself to it a little bit. I don't want to say that, but I actually had an experience where the best I can describe it is an angel arrived and kind of chased off some of these negative influences. I could get into details, but this whole thing probably sounds hokey enough to a lot of you more skeptical minded people. Oh, Daniel, he's hitting the sauce again. He must be dropping acid, eating shrooms or something, right? Even though that's not the case. But names aside and deities aside and whatever, just good is good and bad is bad. If it's vile and bloody and dark, it's probably not a good thing. And if it's about truth and treating people with respect, etc., it's probably from the light. So use your discernment and be careful out there. But I'll probably touch on this again. It's an important topic, and I'm trying to talk about stuff more rather than just have a show where I'm bringing guests on, which everybody loves. I don't intend to change that, but there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, and I'm pretty active on social media. I'm kind of always on there, and I share a lot of things, and a lot of my personal beliefs, and a lot of my research and stuff like that. But I probably don't do it enough on this actual show, so I want to kind of get more into that and make sure we really take advantage of this kind of wrap up or after show we do after the guest. And of course, this is a time when you can jump on as well. So if we have a guest on and you have something that you've researched or found out about, or some hot topic or something like that you'd like to talk about, we've talked about this plenty, but this is the time to do it. By the way, I think it's time to not only promote the Discord. Go to endofdaysradio.com, click on that link that says chat, or click on that link that says Discord, and join our Discord. We're at over 105 members or something like that. People joining all the time. This is like the backstage of the show. This is where you can plan ahead with me, come up with ideas, give me suggestions for guests, book yourself as a guest, help kind of organize the show and just be a part of things. And there's so many different chats in there, and so many different awesome topics that we discuss. Everything from magic to alternative history to ghosts and Bigfoot and UFOs. It just goes on and on. So jump over to our Discord and hook up and just join the crew, and we'll probably do some like actual physical meetups and stuff like that in the future. And if you love End of Days Radio and you'd like to support End of Days Radio, first of all, thank you so much to anybody who has donated in the past. You guys have helped me make it a lot of times. Like, you've literally helped me make ends meet. You've helped me get my rent paid, or my pay for gas so I can go to work, or there's so many times when those like donations, some of them, even the little ones, have helped me make ends meet. So thank you so much to everybody out there who has donated in the past. And if you'd like to donate, whether that means donating like $50 or $20 or just $10 or even just $5 or just $3, I appreciate it so much. It might help me buy a cup of coffee. It might help me buy a new mixer. It might help me buy a new microphone. It might help me keep the power on in my home, right? Keep the lights on. I've said that, I've been saying this for probably years now, but my goal is to do this show at least 5 days a week, right? And being able to actually plan and treat this show like my job and my focus in life, and be in some bunker somewhere, or be up in the mountains or somewhere safe where I can just do this show all the time. And the more you donate, the closer I get to that. Because I don't want to sell t-shirts. I don't want to sell backstage access to another hour of the show, or I don't want to sell you I don't want to take content away and sell it back to you. That's so lame, right? I want this show to be free. I want it to reach as many people as possible without me having to go behind a paywall. I just God bless people that are using that business plan. I'm not ranking on you. I'm not putting you down or saying you shouldn't do things that way. That's great. I mean, if you're able to make money and support yourself and keep your program on the air by having content behind a paywall, good for you. That's awesome, right? But that's not Daniel. That's not End of Days Radio. That's not the way that we do things, or we want to do things. So donation only. It's a donation drive. It's like muscular dystrophy. It's like PBS. Go to endofdaysradio.com. Click donate. You can donate through PayPal, or you can shoot me some Bitcoin, whatever you prefer. And I promise you that 100% of those funds will go to bettering this show and helping my life along, so I'm able to do this show more. I want to get there, and I'd probably need a lot more listeners to do that. But we're growing every day. That getting closer to that goal all the time. I'm going on other shows. I'm putting myself out there. I feel like I feel like I'm getting over, to use a pro wrestling type of word. I'm really starting to feel it. So if I can have some sort of self-made career doing this, maybe I could go to Tibet and really investigate things, or go to Egypt, or go to South America and produce some documentaries or something like that. So just the bigger the whole thing gets, the more you contribute. This will always be free, right? This show will always be free, but the bigger everything gets, the better everything gets. So don't think I'd ever forget about anybody. And please, if you don't mind, shoot me a donation if you can afford it. Otherwise, just sit back and enjoy the show. All right, moving on. We just hit the 3-hour mark. Good for you. Pat self on back. Pat self on back. Good for you. 3 whole hours. Just took a little break. I want to talk about Brittany Griner. Hopefully I'm saying her name right. But man, dude looks like a lady, or lady looks like a dude, I should say, right? I've seen some of the don't forget about the little people. Yeah, ain't that the truth? And nobody's little in my books. I'm little. But if I can be that little guy who is able to project some truth out there, maybe get to the level of someone like a Graham Hancock. Maybe you'll finally come on here, right? That would be fantastic. I could go on Joe Rogan and tell him he sucks. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Joe Rogan's fine. He's not as ultra super woke as some of us, but that's all good. At least he does bring awareness to some of these issues and make them more popular, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to talk about Joe Rogan in a second, but back to Brittany Griner. So she goes to Russia. She's a big, tall female basketball player. And, I don't know a whole lot about women's basketball. I've just started watching it a little bit. I watch the Storm because we don't have any basketball team. So I kind of watch them and the whole Sue Bird thing and them trying to get to the playoffs last year. Had some pretty cool games. I've never watched women's sports. Never. I'm just man, why would I ever do that? But I got so addicted to sports. Next thing I know, I'm starting to watch the lady stuff. That's what it does to you. But anyways, besides that, so I'm I'm seeing all these pictures of this Brittany Griner, and she's got her shirt off, and she's got a flat chest like a dude, and broad shoulders, and I guess she goes to Russia. She has some pot and one of those little vaporizer things, and she's smoking over there, and they bust her and they throw her in prison, and they start using her as a political pawn. It just so happens to be around the same time that the whole Ukraine conflict is starting, and somehow they work it where they get her out of there, right? And people are complaining that, oh, why did you exchange that bad guy that the Russians wanted for Brittany? Why didn't you get this other guy that was an ex-Marine, and this guy was doing nothing wrong, and they just went up and grabbed him, and why are you grabbing her? And there's this whole controversy about it, and then the truth community is just taking another direction, saying, oh, she's a dude, she's trans, right? This has nothing to do with Ukraine. It has nothing to do with anything other than pushing trans on people, right? Transgenderism. And that's kind of turning into a whole thing, which I kind of find to be hilarious, because sometimes the truth community is so into labeling any female that maybe her chest is a little flat, or she's got a little bit of a masculine jawline, or some semblance of an Adam apple. They're like, she's a dude, she's a man. Remember they were doing that with Kim Kardashian, and man, that one guy, I forget what his name was, but he made some pretty cool videos talking about how Kim Kardashian's a man. They say Lady Gaga's a man, and Julia Roberts is a man, Taylor Swift is a man, Michelle Obama has a penis. The list goes on and on. And the idea is that they're pushing this stuff on everybody, and it's like a subconscious thing. You see this fine looking lady, but she's a man and you don't know it. So now you're gay because you were into this dude that became a female, and you got all excited about it. And now you're gay, right? Something like that's going on. It's some kind of black magic, hypnosis, sort of MK Ultra mind control stuff. But anyways, back to Brittany Griner. You know, good for her. I'm glad she got out of there. You know, that she's stuck over in Russia, and that's got to be terrible. And she's an American, and she's just somebody that did something kind of stupid. She's an athlete. She's probably not the smartest person in the world. So I'm giving her a break. I don't have any problem with this lady. I mean, this girl, lady, dude, whatever he is. At least he got out of there, and now they them can go and have Christmas dinner with her family, and that's great. You know, I'm happy for he or her or she. Anyways, enough of that. So you know, I was going to talk about this whole switching subjects, of course, but I was going to talk about this whole Elon Musk and Kanye West thing. I'm not sure if I have time for that tonight. I might have to save that for another show because this is deep. This whole thing with Elon putting this kind of like anti-Semitic stuff out there and society reacting to it. You know what? Screw it. Let's just talk about it. I don't have time to wait for next week. So Kanye's been getting into the Black Hebrew stuff and talking about how Black people are the Jews and, you know, Jewish people, they're not the Jews and they're stealing it and they're condemning Black people, stuff like that. I'm sure you've heard that narrative before. I mean, if that's even a narrative, it very well could be the truth. But I don't believe for 1 second that this is real. I don't believe Kanye West is heroic. I don't believe he's a truther or anything like that. I mean, if he was, he'd already be dead. He's some kind of MK Ultra programmed, mind controlled puppet that's out there kind of as a spokesperson for the Black community. But what's the real intention with this stuff? Projecting what could be perceived as anti-Semitism out there in this blatant, obvious way all of a sudden, right? Well, the goal is it's like a problem, reaction, solution thing. It's a manipulation. So he's putting this stuff out there, and they're slowly getting everybody to kind of agree that these Black Hebrew topics are non-kosher, no pun intended, right? They're not okay. They don't want people talking about Black Hebrew topics. They don't want people talking about Black truth. They don't want people talking about the Moors or the Black Egyptians or the Kushites or any of these African kingdoms that had high civilization and technology that very well may have been a part of the Bible and the story of the Jews and all of that, right? They just want everybody to stay the hell away from those topics. And by having Kanye go out there and getting society to kind of agree, like, oh, he needs to be silenced. He's bad. He's going to cause Jewish people to get hurt. If they can get that reaction from society, see what they did there? Oh, see what they did there? They just banned and outlawed Black truth, African truth. Not that all Black people are in Africa, but they are systematically manipulating society to stay the hell away from Black truth topics, because the people that are in control of things are Nazis and eugenicists, and they're all white. And you know, I don't know what's exactly true and what's not. You know, maybe some of that stuff's exaggerated. I don't know, but from what I can tell, these guys like Bill Gates and these, you know, aristocratic types and these billionaires, they all look pretty white to me, right? Not that there's anything wrong with being white, of course, but they're not just white. They're Nazis. They're eugenicists. They believe in population control and racial superiority and things of that nature, right? And they're using Kanye, and Elon's part of it too. He's playing his role, and they're actually enacting this little drama out on the world stage so that they can get everybody opposed to Black truth and think it's a bunch of bullshit and actually think it's dangerous to Jewish people who, you know, a lot of them are not Arabic or Palestinian or Black. A lot of them are not all of them. I mean, there are real, you know, Jewish people in Israel, etc. But a lot of them are converts, right? They're just people that kind of took on the identity and the ethnicity, and then they're telling everybody out there that, black people better not claim to be Jews, or they better not say anything related to this. Otherwise, they're going to get canceled. They're going to get harassed, et cetera, et cetera. And anybody else better stay away from these topics as well. And my reaction to that is to do the exact opposite and just talk about as much black truth as possible, right? I'd love to get some black Hebrews on here. I want to delve deep into this stuff. I mean, that may be a turnoff for certain people, but hey, there's a reason why they're trying to cover this stuff up. I say let's get more into it, right? Yeah. Okay, moving on. Moving on from Kanye. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan. He's been talking some smack about The Rock. Like he's accusing The Rock of being on steroids. He's saying, "Oh, you're a 50-year-old man. Why do you have all these big muscles and blah blah blah?" I find that kind of strange because, from what I can tell, I believe Joe Rogan himself has been on some kind of HGH or TRT or something like that. I'm pretty sure he admitted to some of it, like being on TRT or something like that. I don't really know. I don't follow Joe Rogan that closely. I probably followed him more when he looks like he's Raven. Other Raven, I agree. He looks like he's on steroids. People listening to the podcast or the show, as you know, when we're doing the live show, people in the chat, they can actually, I can take their comments and put them on the screen. So I try to repeat what they're saying, but I don't always get to it on time. So I apologize to you guys that are just listening to the audio version. But anyways, I don't get this. It seems so hypocritical. Like, obviously Joe Rogan is doing the same thing, but he wants The Rock to come out and admit that he's on steroids. Like, that's something about Joe Rogan I never really could stand. Like, he's really bashed kung fu and the Chinese martial arts systems, which he doesn't really know anything about. Like, somebody that actually practices kung fu or knows about it would just think that the things he's saying are ridiculous. He's a big MMA and UFC guy, but he's really only had that perspective. I know he did some taekwondo and stuff, but he's never done kung fu. He's never gone to China and learned about this stuff. He has a very biased perspective. Like, when the UFC first came around, it was run by the Gracies that, they were doing the jiu-jitsu and the ground fighting, which is incredibly effective. I mean, that's good stuff. But they kind of had a way of discounting all these other martial arts systems that were effective then and are still effective, but it just kind of turned into this game of slamming the traditional martial artist and just jiu-jitsu is the best, blah blah blah, and it is great. It's very effective, but it's almost kind of turned into its own sort of mind programming or mind control to an extent. And Joe Rogan, he's kind of got that same attitude, and he's not very kind of pro wrestlers either. I've heard him kind of make fun of the Undertaker when the Undertaker was integrating more of these MMA moves into what he was doing, using triangle chokes, and Joe Rogan was very critical of him. And now he's attacking The Rock. The Rock is probably the biggest actor on the planet right now. He's making the most money. He's 50 years old and he's just jacked to the gills. He probably is on some kind of steroids or something. But who the hell is Joe Rogan to call out The Rock? I mean, between the two of them, who do you think I'm going to side with? The Brahma Bull or the raspy UFC commentator that was on Fear Factor and has his podcast and stuff? Come on. What are you doing, Joe? Stay in your fucking lane, dude. What? You're acting like a troll. You're acting like a child. Keep Dwayne Johnson's name out of your mouth, dude. Who are you? You've got plenty of people listening to your show. Why do you got to go after? I mean, it's jealousy. Let's be real. Let's be honest. You're Joe Rogan. You are jealous of The Rock. You are so jealous that it literally just hurts you. Everything that The Rock has, everything that he's doing, you're big, but you're not as big as The Rock. You're not as big as him physically. You're not as big of a name as he is. So just leave the guy alone. Go hunt in the woods and take your shirt off and do your DMT and smoke your pot and do your taekwondo kicks and and just, leave The Rock alone. Leave wrestling alone. Like, who are you to talk about anything like that? If he's on steroids, that's his business, man. So are you. What's your point? Why are you talking about him? I don't understand. He's trying to act like Howard Stern, just baiting people and just saying whatever stupid shock jock trollish thing just to get in the newspapers and get the media talking about you and create controversy. And I used to be into that sort of stuff and that Howard Stern stuff, but you know what? Fuck that shit. That's just childish and vile and borderline demonic. A lot of that nasty stuff. There's no reason to emulate any of these people or follow in their footsteps. That's all been done. All that shocking stuff. You can't shock people these days. You want to get shocked, you get involved with a demonic AI. That'll shock your ass, right? And all this anti-truther stuff that Howard Stern's always talking about. Oh, if you're unvaccinated, all those people should just die. No, you know what, dude? You should just go and retire because nobody listens to your show anymore. I haven't listened to Howard. It's so boring. I haven't listened to him and since way back in the day. I think I got serious for a little while and there's just nothing on there and I just got rid of it. And Howard Stern was only on there like sometimes like 3 days a week. He's played out. He's an expert at using and exploiting people and getting other people to do awful things to themselves and humiliate and embarrass themselves so that he gets more fame and he gets more money. But what talent does Howard Stern really have? He went on America's Got Talent, and the whole show had to move to New York. What happened? The ratings dropped. If Howard Stern's so big, if he's so popular, why did the ratings of AGT drop? Why did his movie fail so hard? His movie was not popular. It was critically acclaimed, but it was not popular. A lot of people did not go to see it. Howard Stern is extremely overrated. He's a hot mess. There's all these clips floating around out there of him saying the N-word. He used to say it like every day. With a black woman sitting right next to him. He's worn blackface. I get that was done for comedy and whatnot, but come on, man. He's I've heard him say things about Asian people. But you can never say anything bad about Jewish people. Then he gets all angry, right? Because that's his group and he can prank, but you can't prank, like he says. All that vile, disgusting, nasty, borderline pedo stuff he's said and done and, made people have to witness and be a part of. That's got to be some Satan shit right there. I mean, if there's anybody that has sold their soul to the devil, it has to be Howard Stern. And I used to be a huge fan of him. I used to credit him for being an inspiration for me doing this podcast until I realized that's what everybody says, Everybody credits Howard Stern. Everybody wants to be Howard Stern. Everybody in this radio world is. But the thing is, you could copy his stuff, but it won't do a damn thing for you because it's already been done. There's already been Howard Stern. So you might as well not even go down that road, right? And it's just so over with. The guy is irrelevant. The new generations don't even know who he is. You could show them a picture of Howard Stern and they'd be like, who's that? Some ugly dude with curly hair? Exactly. The way he's, you could look into it, but the way he's treated his staff, not paying them. One guy had a sick wife with cancer. He wouldn't even help at all. Wouldn't even let him promote his crowdfunding thing. The way he treated Artie Lang, who was a big part of his show, the way he just turned his back on him. Disgusting. Shame on you, Howard Stern. Shame on you. And you can go ahead and play this clip on your show because I would love that. You would never do that, but I'm going to give you permission anyways. So you can know how disgusting you are and you can know how disgusted with you that everybody is and your own fans don't even like you. Your own fans constantly call you Wiggy. They call you Hollywood Howie. They call you a sellout. They call you a user. Because you are, man. You are. Okay, enough of this. Weren't we talking about Joe Rogan? What happened there? Okay, one more thing. to end things, right? Show my buff arms. I'm on roids. I'm on steroids. I'm on pepperoni sticks and spicy Cheetos. Makes me buff, man. I got this. I got my pink Mountain Dew. It's a new flavor. Raspberry lemonade. Slowly killing myself in front of your eyes. Mm. And by the way, don't think I'm promoting the occult, because I'm not. But I'm not promoting it either. I think that a lot of this stuff about stay away from magic, stay away from the cult, I think that's from the bad guys. Because a lot of that stuff that's like, for example, the Kabbalah and the whole like Eastern Kundalini thing, they're very similar. And there's a reason why they want to disconnect us from that stuff, right? From the chakras and the third eye and stuff. It's how they enslave us. They keep us down on our root chakra, so we focus on materialistic things. We focus on making money and sex, right? Because if we were to get into the occult, a lot of us might have a period where we explore black magic, but we'll eventually start to realize that's not all there is to it, and there's a whole world out there, right? And it's possible to actually accumulate enough of this knowledge where it changes your consciousness. That's what you call gnosis. And remember, the Catholic Church used to kill the Gnostics. So there's some food for thought right there. And you would never hear somebody like Howard Stern talk about this stuff, because he's just not smart enough. He wouldn't understand it all. It would just sound like nonsense to him. And that's the type of person that subscribes to that type of base humor. Somebody stuck in their lower chakra. Somebody that's all about poo poo and pee pee, and penises and vaginas and sex and money and violence. Too much of that violence. I love all the MMA and the sports and violent movies and stuff, but too much of that stuff's not good for you. Too much blood and guts and crap like that. And no, I don't have a degree. I never went to college. I was barely into school. I probably almost flunked out. But later on, my mind, it exploded. Yeah. And anybody can do that. Anybody can have a mind that explodes, because nobody's smarter than anybody else, really. It's just certain people are interested in certain things, right? Some people are good at accumulating facts. Some people are good at math. Some people are good at making music. Everybody's kind of got their own superpower. Okay. Enough of me patting my own back and calling myself smart. That's got to be annoying. Newsflash. Today is the 10th anniversary of End of Days Radio. Yes, this show started in December of 2012. And here we are, December of 2022. Yeah, a whole decade of this stuff. I was a much younger man when we started this. I was only 30 years old? To me, that's young. My God, how things have changed, haven't they? I was just talking to my old co-host, my buddy Michael. He has his own podcast now, and I was talking to him about this is our 10-year anniversary of when we started this shit. And End of Days Radio hit the airwaves. And there's been so much that has happened since then. So much terror, so much angst, so much gang stalking, so much enlightenment, so much fun. So many new friends, so many old friends. My God, 10 years. It just went by in a flash. I went through 2 different studios. I still have the same microphone. Some of my equipment's starting to fall apart. But here we are, 10 years later, and I'm still doing it. I'm proud of that. How many podcasts have been on the air for 10 years? I know I haven't always been consistent. I know that I've been borderline shitty at times, but here I am, still standing. I haven't been murdered by the Mossad. I haven't been I haven't been scared enough to quit doing this. I've always made the time. I've always I've always been there for you. What can I say? Because I'm your best friend that will never leave you. And I'm not done yet. We're about to hit a whole new plateau with this stuff. This is the 10-year anniversary. I'm gonna take this shit to a whole new level. I want to have like a actual physical location with a studio and like a magic shop and some psychic mediums and like a science center and a museum, a paranormal conspiracy, alternative history museum. I want to build this somewhere, like in the middle of Seattle, and it's going to be called End of Daysville, and that's where we're all going to hang out, right? That's just one of my goals. Just one of my goals. And when this happens, oh my god, oh my god! By the time this happens, I should say, it's probably going to be really hectic out there. I'm sure they're going to be gathering up all the true believers and throwing them in camps and beheading them and crap like that. This might be the only safe refuge for our people, those who know about what goes on behind the scenes, and those who will not take the mark, right? Because we know that's where this is all headed. This Neuralink and this transhumanism and these shots and blah blah blah. You know that's where we're headed. So now it's time to start coming together and working together, and along with fighting the info war, so to speak, and making sure we get that correct information out there and putting it out there, no matter how many times they suspend us and delete us and ban us. We just keep fighting back and trying to wake people up. This is it. This is war. This is war, baby. It's the end of days. It's gonna get worse and worse. It's gonna get better and better. And every day, don't think they're gonna let you off the hook. I hate to break it to you, but we got another lockdown coming. hmm You probably think it's over, but it's not. This isn't me wanting this to happen. This isn't me doom and glooming. I get accused of that all the time, and it doesn't stop me because all the things that I say are coming, they come true. Not every little thing, but like 99%, they come true. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to prepare? Are you going to be scared? Or are you going to be prepared? Are you going to sit there on your hands and pretend like everything's okay and be a softie? Or are you going to be a hard ass gangsta and get you and yours to a safe location? Get your MREs and get your organic farm and get your generators and get your chicken coop and get your bows and arrows and get your fishing gear and get your gas powered trucks and your gasoline and everything that you're going to need to survive off the grid where they cannot track you and they cannot tell you what to do and they cannot force you to do things because that's what it's all about. And if you're real smart, you'll have a location like that and you'll be ready to leave it at any time. You'll be ready to go completely mobile and be on the go. Like you'll have your farm and your bunker and everything. Then you'll have an RV just loaded up, ready to go for wherever we need to go to escape these evil, psychopathic, brainwashed zombies that are just surrounding us, constantly trying to drag us into their stupidity, drag us into their weakness, drag us into their vile, hateful, lower chakra, sex addicted, greedy mind state. When they try to drag us into that, we've got to slap them across the face and say, "No, I'm with God, motherfucker. Get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape." That's literally what we have to do. So if you're with me and you know the truth like I know the truth, you'll start preparing today. You don't have to, you don't have to have everybody agreeing with you because you know in your heart what the right thing is to do. But I think I've said a lot, and I think that I've said enough. I'm going on the 3 hour and 30-minute mark. I promised I was going to shorten the show a little bit, but as I got on here, I just couldn't do it. This show's famous for going a little bit longer. I'd rather go a little bit shorter and do more shows, and I'm sure most people would prefer that, but this is where we're at for now. Oh, somebody asked let me answer this question. Do you think Elon is an alien? That's from our other Raven, the female Raven. No, but what I do think he is one of these cousins of the Rothschilds, or one of these, the 13 families. He's one of their cousins that they install in a powerful position. Somebody that's gone through all the rituals as a kid, somebody that's already, signed all the documents, and somebody that's promised to not share the secrets, somebody that they can control completely. I think he's most likely either that or he's a robot. Most likely he's a Rothschild cousin. I'd say that's probably the number one theory. And then the second theory would be that he's just an AI or he's a robot. I swear he looks younger now than he did back in the late 80s or 90s. Or he had this video where he was buying a McLaren F1. I think that was the 90s when that was the fastest car in the world. And he looked older than he does now. So maybe it's just a lot of Botox, but who knows? I think he's probably he's a cousin. He's one of these inbred puppets, like a lot of these celebrities and whatnot. But anyways, enough's enough. Love you guys. Oh, well, hold on. Another one from the female Raven. She says, "Yay, did you see his Halloween costume? Hero of Satan costume, something like that." Yeah, I saw that. I mean, it was like a red armor and it had the Baphomet face on the front. He's kind of playing into people's fears, right? Because people are saying, "Oh, he's the Antichrist. He's this. He's that." He knows all this stuff. I swear he's communicated with me. Like, there's one time I called him Elon Muskrat, and the next day he called himself Elon Muskrat. And there's other times when I've kind of put stuff out there, and then it seems like he's talking about the same stuff or he's responding to it. I don't think that he pays attention to me personally. I don't think that he gives a crap about me, but there might be some kind of AI involved that's collecting metadata and then just kind of putting it back out there to like freak people out or squelch certain topics or make fun of them. I don't really know. I'm sure that sounds incredibly schizo, but I have noticed something weird like that going on. And I think what he's doing is he's playing to people's fears. He's generating controversy. He's kind of telling people that are in the know, he's feeding into it and saying, "Yeah, I am one of them. This is what I subscribe to when I'm not in the public eye." I happen to think that armor he's wearing looks a lot like the armor that Dracula wore on Bram Stoker's Dracula. The red armor. People that are old enough to remember that movie, if not, go look it up. Check out YouTube. Use Google Images. Look at Dracula's red armor. And of course, Dracula's bloodline. He's related to Prince Charles and all this royalty. And then you have the whole Baphomet thing with the Freemasons, the Templars, and all that. Come on, people. Those with eyes to see what's in front of you. This is some sick shit. Combine that with the Space Force and the fake videos of Tesla's going to space and the weird wife or girlfriend and the child that's got a name that's just numbers. Yeah. Something really creepy going on with Elon. Even his name. I think Elon's Hebrew. Like, what are they trying to tell us? I could go on all day about this guy. I could make a special about him, but I don't want him to ban me from Twitter. So let's just leave it at that. I love you guys. This is Daniel. This is End of Days Radio. And join us next week. Here, let's go through the schedule real quick. Join us on the 17th at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are going to be having Raven, who was just on the roundtable earlier and who has been on the show participating in roundtables before. Really intelligent guy, really great to talk to. We'll be having him on. Hopefully Grub and Lee make it over with us as well. Hopefully they jump in. They're kind of a trio. That's how I know those guys, is from going on Subconscious Realms, the roundtable, and that's where I met those guys. And speaking of, on Christmas Eve, we're finally going to be doing the big show at General Lee. That's going to be our Christmas special. I'm planning some real cool stuff, some surprises for that show. So we'll get in the Christmas spirit. We'll talk about Christmas. We'll talk about Saturnalia and all that. And if you are a lonely person who won't be with their family, then you can come join your other family, the End of Days radio crew. That's part of the reason I'm doing this show. People that don't have like a big, family get together or anything, that this is us coming together as our spiritual family and celebrating Christmas together. What's wrong with that? We're going to have some eggnog with rum in it. I'm going to get blasted. I'm going to get shit faced. I'm going to sing some Christmas carols. Oh, it's going to be a good time. So join me on the 24th. And from there, we'll see what happens. I'm booking guests. I'm keeping things consistent, making sure we utilize those Saturdays. We got nonstop shows coming, loaded schedule. I don't intend to stop. The ball's starting to roll. The momentum is going. I love you guys. Peace out. Good night. See you next time. Have a good one. Goodbye.
From the beginning.
And I was shown that that Lucifer would return, that the UN and the Vatican were going to be completely behind it, again, under false pretenses. He's going to show up and say, I'm here to save the day, right? And, okay, fine,
Yeah, of
go
course,
ahead,
you can
try
say
it.
whatever you want.
But
I've always hated censorship. It's the internet.
Sometimes, once they get you for your first love bite, well, it depends on how aware you are, right?
I forgot my bullets. I never had a gun. Here I am left standing. Am I the only one? For what I see, memories have gifted me. I'll never see the sun.
First of all, as you know, the Anunnaki and the Draco are enemies. Second of all, underneath Baghdad was a stargate that was created by the Anunnaki so that they could transfer from Jupiter to the Earth.
I'll never see the sun. I could just end it all, but the demons will have won.
Practitioners that some are good and some use their magic for good and to heal and to help, and others do use it for evil. And in some cases, people really were.
This is too much sometimes.